Chapter 1423. Park Cheon did not seem to feel anything and smiled politely. Why did you two suddenly come to visit? Why didn't you inform us beforehand so that we could host a banquet for you? There's no need for that, Mr. Park. Yangcheng and I are here to watch the Sarira opening ceremony. We haven't seen Jinxiu for a long time, so we decided to come along, Jane answered. I see. Why isn't President Lin here this time? Park Cheon glanced around. Behind him, Jinxiu was also puzzled. Yangcheng did not want Jinxiu to worry, so he casually said, "She's busy, so she can't come." Park Cheon showed a regretful expression. "Since you're here, please stay for dinner. Although there aren't any fancy delicacies, we do have some home-cooked dishes." Yangcheng's mind was muddled, and he did not think much about it. He agreed, but he could not tear his eyes away from Jinxiu. Jane could tell that Jinxiu's attitude was very different from before. She quietly tugged at Yangcheng's hand and motioned him to calm down. It was not good for him to be in such a daze. After everyone sat down in the dining room, Park Cheon, Yangcheng, and Jane chatted about health issues. Jane answered most of the questions while Yangcheng was not in the mood to entertain Park Cheon's questions. Jinxiu sat obediently beside her grandfather without saying a word or looking at Yangcheng. Yangcheng was not used to this cold unfamiliarity. It was not that he needed a warm welcome, but Yangcheng felt that Jinxiu was not as happy as she used to be. When dinner was about to start, a familiar father and son pair appeared outside the door. It was Kim Jip and his father, Lawyer Kim. Oh, what an unexpected guest. I didn't expect Mr. Yang and Dr. Jane to be here too. Lawyer Kim smiled kindly and greeted Yangcheng and Jane. Although the Kim family was also a famous family in Seoul, they were, after all, just a legal family. Lawyer Kim was also very modest. Kim Jip's expression was as cold as ever, but he still greeted Yangcheng and Jane respectfully. Both father and son sat down. It was obvious that they had planned to eat together. Both of you, I'm old and muddle-headed. I forgot to mention an important joyous event. Park Cheon pointed at Kim Jip and Jinxiu. Both of you came at the right time. The day after tomorrow will be the day after the Buddha Heart Relic opening ceremony. The Park family and the Kim family will hold a formal wedding ceremony for Jinxiu and Kim Jip at Seoul's Jogi Temple. We will use the blessing of the Buddha Heart Relic opening ceremony to complete this sacred ceremony. What? Yangcheng wondered if he had heard wrongly, but when he saw Park Cheon's joyful expression and Lawyer Kim's nodding smile, he knew that they were indeed getting married. Yangcheng was no stranger to Shaoxi Temple. His brain had recorded all the important buildings and their origins in the world's major cities. This was the main temple of the Jogi sect of Korean Buddhism. It was the leader of the entire Zen sect in Korea and was extremely sacred. It was not unusual for the Buddha Heart Relic opening ceremony to be held at Shaoxi Temple. What made people wonder was how Park Cheon managed to arrange for Jinxiu and Kim Jip's wedding to be held at Shaoxi Temple. However, money makes the world go round. As one of the most influential families in Korea and one of the top 10 richest families in Asia, Park Cheon's relationship with the government was definitely not simple. After all, weddings were a good thing. Many big families would invite eminent monks to perform rituals to protect the newlyweds. With that in mind, it was not surprising that the Park family was able to pull off such a feat. Yangcheng frowned and asked Jinxiu, "Jinxiu, why didn't you contact us when you were getting married? If we didn't come, wouldn't we have missed your wedding?" In fact, Yangcheng was wondering why they were getting married so suddenly. Didn't Jinxiu object to this marriage? Mr. Yang and General Lin are both in Zhonghai and have a lot of things to do. I didn't want to disturb them. After all, marriage is a matter between the two of us. It's not appropriate to disturb too many people, Jinxiu replied calmly. Disturb? Yangcheng mocked himself. Why do you sound like you're treating me like an outsider? Jinxiu's eyes suddenly flashed with anger. To Mr. Yang, of course, Jinxiu is just an outsider. I'm not related to you, am I not? His mocking tone made Yangcheng's scalp go numb and his heart turn cold. Jinxiu, don't talk nonsense. Park Cheon scolded her sternly before turning to apologize to Yangcheng with a smile. Mr. Yang, this child is getting more and more impudent. I'm worried too. She's about to get married, but she's still spouting nonsense. Lawyer Kim waved his hand. Mr. Yang is a magnanimous man. I'm sure he won't mind. President, please don't blame Jinxiu. She's much more sensible than my son. Kim Jip came with me to take care of the wedding details. He doesn't know anything, and he's always putting on a sour face. It's really giving me a headache. The two of them were already in-laws. On the other hand, Kim Jip and Jinxiu, the newlyweds who were engaged and about to get married, hadn't even glanced at each other since they walked in. Park Cheon smiled. Mr. Yang, Dr. Jane, please don't leave Seoul the day after tomorrow. Come with us and attend the wedding at Chaoshi Temple. The Buddha Heart Saraira will be enshrined in Chaoshi Temple in the future, but not everyone will be able to see it. If you're interested, you can take a look tomorrow or the day after. Yang Chung was a little numb at the moment. He couldn't tell if it was because of Jinxiu's wedding or Jinxiu's current state. In short, he was in a terrible mood. Jane, on the other hand, was clear-headed. She agreed on behalf of Yang Chung and gave her blessings. Then let's bask in the glory of the two newlyweds and wish Jinxiu and Kim Jip a happy marriage for 100 years. Haha. Thank you, Dr. Jane. If Jinxiu were to give birth in the future, she might need Dr. Jane's help. Park Cheon joked. It's hard to hire me. I won't do it without tens of millions of dollars. Jane teased. Dinner had yet to begin, but the atmosphere was joyous. Kim Jip, who had been silent all this while, took a sip of the tea on the table. He furrowed his brows and glared at Eun-young, who was standing nearby. What's wrong with this tea? It's so hot. With that, Kim Jip splashed the tea at Eun-young's position. Eun-young stood there, too afraid to dodge. Her dress was splashed with water, and she could only apologize. I'm sorry, young Master Kim Jip. I'll change it for you now. Eun-young immediately ordered someone to clean up and refill the tea. Although Kim Jip had always been Park Cheon's bodyguard, in the eyes of the maids, he was more highly regarded by Park Cheon than the young masters of the Park family. Even if Eun-young was the most valued one among the maids, her status was still far below Kim Jip's. Kim Jip, why are you being so unruly? It's just a little hot tea. How many times have I told you to be more gentle? Lawyer Kim said unhappily. Kim Jip silently nodded at his father as an apology. However, his expression was not pleasant, and he continued to glare at Eun-young with dissatisfaction. Park Cheon, on the other hand, chimed in, no wonder Kim Jip. The new maids are always making mistakes. Although they weren't loyal enough in the past, they are much more reliable than the current ones. It's a good thing that Kim Jip has a temper. How can a man achieve great things without a temper? I was hoping that he would be able to protect Jinxiu in the future. It was just a small interlude, but it attracted Yang Cheng's attention. In Yang Chen's mind, he suddenly recalled the scene he saw at the Park clan last year. Squinting his eyes, he fell into deep thought. During dinner, Lawyer Kim and Park Cheon discussed the final details of the wedding preparations. Kim Jip had been busy with the wedding with Lawyer Kim for the past few days, which was why he was not with Park Cheon. After dinner, Jinxiu wiped the corner of her mouth and stood up gracefully. She said to Park Cheon, Grandfather, I'm going upstairs. I'm a little tired today. Oh, you're going up so soon? Park Cheon waved his hand. All right, rest early. Don't read until late like the past few days. You have to attend the opening ceremony tomorrow and be the bride the day after. Don't tire yourself out. Jinxiu nodded meekly. Without looking at anyone else, she decided to go upstairs. Yang Chung stood up and said, Wait, Jinxiu, it's been a while. Let's have a chat. Jinxiu paused and said without turning her head, Mr. Yang, if there's anything you want to say, please say it now. Some words are better spoken in private. Why? It's only been half a year and you're not even willing to talk to your big brother Yang. You can't put on such airs. Yang Chung joked. Jinxiu turned her back to him and bit her lip. Her eyes were filled with conflicting emotions as she said, Mr. Yang, my fiancé is here. It's not appropriate. Chapter 1424. Sigh, Jinxiu, Mr. Yang is my grandfather's savior. Don't throw a tantrum. I believe Kim Jip won't mind. Park Cheon advised. Kim Jip was smart enough to respond, I don't mind. He was just like a robot. Jinxiu had no choice but to turn to the side hall and said, Mr. Yang, follow me. The two entered the side hall. This room was far from the dining room, so they were not afraid of being overheard. The few servants in the hall were also chased out by Yang Chun, and the atmosphere suddenly became quiet. "Speak, what's the matter?" Jinxiu was a little impatient. She turned her head away and did not look at Yang Chun. Yang Chun felt a slight pain in his heart. He walked to the girl and asked seriously, "Jinxiu, tell me, did something happen? Are you mad at me? I don't understand what Mr. Yang is talking about." "I'm fine, don't worry about me," Jinxiu said. "Enough." Yang Cheng's voice became heavier. Jinxiu was not afraid. She glared at Yang Cheng with a pair of cold eyes. "This is my home. Please don't speak to me in such a fierce tone." Yang Cheng tried to calm himself down and took a deep breath. "Jinxiu, I really want to know what happened in the past 6 months. Why are you speaking to me in such a strange tone? Did your grandfather say something to you? Or do you have some other difficulties? Mr. Yang, don't you think it's strange? We didn't have much of a relationship to begin with. We might have been close in the past, but that was because we lived under the same roof. Now that we haven't seen each other for half a year, it's normal for us to become cold." Yang Cheng was speechless. He lowered his head and pondered for a while. Finally, he looked up. "All right, since you said so, I only have one last request." "What is it?" "You didn't call me Mr. Yang before. I want to hear you call me Big Brother Yang again." Jinxiu's delicate body trembled slightly. Yang Cheng saw this slight change. Yang Cheng grinned. This girl was indeed hiding something. She was Su Jinxiu, not someone else. "You're very boring. I'm free to call you whatever I want." Jinxiu turned around and wanted to leave. Yang Cheng grabbed the girl's fair arm. Let go of me." Jinxiu was embarrassed and angry. How could she struggle free with her strength? She immediately blushed. "Oh, now you finally know how to be shy. You're not like a popsicle anymore." "Su Jinxiu, of all people, why did you learn from your sister Ruashi? You're still lacking compared to me." Yang Chen was quite proud of himself. Jinxiu's disguise seemed to have been removed. Her true self was exposed to the air. She was extremely fragile, and it made her feel indignant. "Yang Cheng, let go of me." Jinxiu clenched her teeth. Her eyes were glistening with tears. How could Yang Cheng let go? It was a crucial moment. He had to make this girl speak clearly. "Call me Big Brother Yang, and I'll let you go." Jinxiu finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears streamed down her face. She sobbed. "You? What is this? When you didn't want to talk to me, you threw me far away like trash. Now that we've met, you want me to talk to you? Do you think I, Su Jinxiu, am a toy?" Yang Cheng was a little confused. He said, "Su Jinxiu, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I, Yang Cheng, have wronged many people, but I don't think I've wronged you, Su Jinxiu. Since when have I ever thrown you away like trash? When did I treat you as a toy? I did come to Korea because of the Buddha heart relic, but I also came to see you because of my big wish. I haven't seen you for a long time, and I miss you. On the other hand, you didn't even give us a letter when you got married. I came to see you, but you still put on airs and gave me a cold look. You're the one playing with me, aren't you?" Even a clay bodhisattva had 3 points of fire. This time, Yang Cheng was inexplicably scared by Jinxiu, so he was naturally very unhappy. "Miss me? Humph," Jinxiu sneered. "To think that you have the face to say such words. If you really miss me, why didn't you give me a call? You didn't even talk to me once in half a year?" Yang Cheng was speechless for a moment and scratched his head in embarrassment. Shanshan smiled and said this, "Jinxiu, it's not that Brother Yang did this on purpose. You also know that I'm not the kind of person who likes to keep in touch on the phone. Furthermore, ever since we parted ways here, a lot of things have happened to me in the past 6 months. I'm in almost endless trouble, and I almost went to a place and couldn't come back. I didn't have the nerve to say it just now, but your sister Ruashi is still asking for a divorce. This time, there's really no way to save it." "What? Sister Ruashi wants to divorce you?" Jinxiu's bright eyes widened in shock. Her small mouth opened so wide that she could eat an egg. It was obvious that this had shocked her quite a bit. This time, Jinxiu didn't have the time to quarrel with Yang Cheng and immediately asked what was going on. Yang Cheng rubbed his nose and embarrassedly and proudly recounted the general situation of the matter. That's about it. Ruashi insisted that I make a choice between her and Lanlan. How could I not want my own flesh and blood? Lanlan's birth mother is the regret of my life. I can't do anything that will let Lanlan down. Yang Chung sighed. Jinxio's expression was extremely complicated at this moment. It was unknown if she was sad, surprised, or something else. In short, she had mixed feelings. But overall, the way she looked at Yang Chung was much gentler. It seemed that this kind of thing was indeed shocking enough. Seeing this, Yang Chung immediately said, Jinxio, you really wronged your big brother Yang. When you called home, Mother Wang received it, and Mother Wang asked me to call you back. Do you remember this? Jinxio nodded. I remember, but you didn't call me. What didn't I call you? I clearly called, and it was Jing who answered. She said that you were sleeping and that you would call me back when you woke up, but you didn't call me back either. I thought you were fine. Jinxio saw that Yang Cheng's expression didn't seem to be lying. She frowned and said, You really called me? Yes, absolutely. Why would I lie to you about this? Yang Cheng pointed to the door and said, If you don't believe me, you can ask Jing later. If you fight with her. Halfway through his sentence, Yang Cheng suddenly came to a realization. Looking at Jinxio's confused expression, he was stunned and said, Could it be? And Jing didn't tell you? Jinxio's expression changed, and she nodded, Yes. I asked Sister Jing at that time, and she said she didn't call me back. At this moment, both of them thought of something, but they couldn't help but fall silent. After a long time, Jinxio opened her mouth again. Brother. Brother Yang, yes. Yang Cheng raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, You've finally become my Jinxio again. Jinxio blushed, bit her thin lips, and asked, A few months ago, I called you Sister Roashi in my home in Zhonghai many times. Did you? There's no need to ask. I didn't receive a single call. Yang Cheng said with a bitter smile, Jinxio, I finally understand why you hate me so much. Do you think that I, Ruashi, and Mother Wang didn't answer your calls on purpose? Hearing this, Jinxio couldn't help but cry again. She pursed her lips and nodded. I thought you guys didn't want me anymore. Woo, woo. At the end of crying, Jinxio cried out and directly threw herself into Yang Cheng's arms. Brother Yang, I miss you so much. I miss everyone. Woo. Yang Cheng exhaled, gently hugged the girl, and patted her back. Silly girl, I told you that you're silly, but you still refuse to admit it. Even if I'm heartless, your sister Ruashi isn't that kind of person. If I'm not mistaken, your calls were intercepted by special means. As long as it's related to our Huaxia region, it's blocked. Our calls must have been monitored. When they saw that it was our number, they were picked up by someone else, or they simply didn't let you know. Jinxio leaned against Yang Cheng's chest, her tears drenching Yang Cheng's shirt. It must be Grandpa's doing. He always told me that you wanted to avoid arousing suspicion, didn't want Sister Roashi to have any ideas, and deliberately didn't want to contact me. Jinxio finally understood. Yang Cheng could only guess that Park Chion would do this, and he could understand why his old man would do this. However, he deserved to die for making Jinxio suffer so much. Of course, he was Jinxio's grandfather after all. Yang Cheng wouldn't be so cruel to him. Chapter 1425. Silly girl, you're really slow. If I didn't want to talk to you and didn't want to contact you, why would I come to your house to see you? Do you know how much my heart ached when I saw you being so cold just now? Yang Cheng also understood why Jing had a strange look in her eyes when she saw him. Jinxio thought about it and felt that she was too slow, but she raised her head and said happily, Brother Yang, are you sad because I'm cold to you? Yang Cheng shook his head. No, I can accept your coldness and enthusiasm. I just don't like to see you unhappy. I hope you can live happily. Jinxio was slightly disappointed, but she still smiled and nodded, as if the lively and beautiful Jinxio from before had returned. Brother Yang, it's fortunate that you're here. It seems that the heavens are helping me. Jinxio suddenly said, What's wrong? Jinxio pouted and said, I don't want to marry that Kim Jip, but grandfather said that the opening of the Buddha Heart Sarira is a rare, auspicious sign, so we must try to hold the wedding the day after tomorrow. Yang Chung laughed strangely. Just now, some people kept calling you fiancé. Why don't you want to get married now? You. I. Jinxiu lowered her head shyly and said, I'm angry at you. My brain has gone haywire. Yang Chung sighed and touched Jinxiu's face. Don't be silly. Marriage is a very serious matter. I'm just an outsider. I can't forcefully interfere. Why not? Didn't you snatch Sister Anshin back from Japan to Zhonghai? I don't want to stay here anymore. For the past 6 months, my life has been filled with studying and socializing. This is not the life I want at all. No one can confide in me. No one will care what I like. Now I know that grandfather lied to me, and even Sister Unjing lied to me. I don't want to live with them. I want to go back to Zhonghai. Jinxiu said angrily. What are you talking about? Anshin is different. I have a relationship with Anshin first. She is my woman, so naturally, she can't marry someone else. But I treat you like my own sister, completely different. Your grandfather did it for your own good. He let you, Anshin, stay here and inherit such a big family business. He must have invested a lot of effort in you. From what I can see, he doesn't want to hurt you, and Kim Jip is a good man. Even if you don't like him, feelings can be slowly cultivated, Yang Chung advised. I won't listen, I won't listen. Jinxiu anxiously shouted, Brother Yang, didn't you say that you wanted to see me happy? If I marry Kim Jip, I won't be happy for the rest of my life. Yang Cheng's face was bitter. How could he not know what Jinxiu was thinking? She had feelings for him for a long time, but Yang Chung did not want this seed to blossom and bear fruit. Jinxiu should have her own life, while she still had the best years of her youth. She was a girl who could stand alone in a storm of blood. There were already many women around him who needed his care, and love. He already had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Jinxiu deserved a complete love, a man who loved her completely, to live an ordinary and comfortable life with her. She should not have to face all kinds of dangers after being with him. Yang Chung did not think that Kim Jip was a perfect partner, but at least he seemed to be a gentleman. He had been by Park Cheon's side for many years, so Park Cheon must have known this. He was a responsible man. It could be seen from his response to Park Cheon's emergency situation. He was loyal and responsible. Su Jinxiu, I agree with your grandfather's choice on this matter. Don't mess around. When you mature, you will understand your elders' good intentions. Yang Chung said sternly. Jinxiu's face instantly turned pale. Her eyes were filled with resentment and disappointment. Brother Yang, how could you do this to me? I hate you. Jinxiu cried and ran out of the room. Yang Chung let out a long sigh. He felt terrible. Although the misunderstanding had been resolved, it seemed that Jinxiu was angry at him again. However, Yang Chung did not think that his judgment was wrong. He was no longer the frivolous boy he once was. He could not make promises just because a girl liked him. By the time he returned to the dining room, everyone had already finished their meal. Everyone had witnessed the scene of Jinxiu running upstairs in tears. Yang Chung did not want to stay any longer. He nodded at Jane and said, President Park, we're leaving. We'll be there on time for the wedding. Park Cheon was satisfied. He got up to personally send them off. Lawyer Kim and Kim Jip followed suit. Outside the door, Park Cheon grabbed Yang Cheng's hand and shook it solemnly. Mr. Yang, I think a woman as talented as Dr. Jane would never fall in love with an ordinary man. You are indeed wise. I want to thank you for your decision. Park Cheon's words were vague, but they contained a lot of information. Firstly, he had long known about the relationship between Yang Chung and Jane. Secondly, he also knew that Yang Chung had discovered what he had done to Jinxiu. Moreover, Park Cheon could imagine what Yang Chung had said to Jinxiu. Yang Chung did not have a good impression of this old man. He said seriously, President Park, with all due respect, I may be an outsider, but I don't want Jinxiu to have an unhappy life in this family in the future. Even after Jinxiu gets married, I will take care of her and not let her get hurt. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what I will do. There was a hint of threat in his words. Park Cheon's expression changed slightly. She's my granddaughter. I will do my best to take good care of her. Park Cheon did not want to say more. He gestured for them to leave. There was no need to call a taxi to return to the hotel. Park Chi-yeon sent a Mercedes-Benz to send Yang Chung and Jane back to the Hilton Hotel. As soon as they entered the hotel lobby, two teams of Korean police officers suddenly rushed out from the opposite side and behind them, surrounding Yang Chung and Jane. Yang Chung and Jane looked at each other with a smile. The police had been tailing them since the afternoon. They had not let up, and now they were going to arrest them. Huang Xian in her well-ironed police uniform walked out from the two groups of policemen. Her gaze filled with judgment lingered on Yang Chung for a while. Mr. Yang Chung, I am Huang Ziyun from the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department Security Department. We now suspect that you are a member of a terrorist organization. We're now arresting you as a suspect. Please cooperate with the police. Yang Chung did not know whether to laugh or cry. Officer, you have my entry and exit information, right? Are you sure you've checked my information? Huang Ziyun sneered. We requested to see your file to the Huaxia police, but the file they gave us is full of loopholes. You were a hawker in Huaxia 3 years ago. How could you graduate from Harvard University in the United States? Moreover, you are involved with the Park family of the Starmoon Group. We have reason to suspect that you are a high-caliber spy. You're close to the rich and powerful with ulterior motives. Yang Chung was dumbfounded. How could she even think of this? Spy. It was inevitable that Huaxia would not provide the real information. His specific information was not something that the police could obtain. It had to be approved by the Ministry of State Security. It was only natural that Huang Ziyun would not be able to find it. As for his relationship with the Park family, Huang Ziyun would not be able to find it in a short time. Hence, her speculation was wrong. Just as Yang Chung was feeling a little distressed, Zhang Ru somehow ran into the encirclement of the police and grabbed Jane's arm. Teacher, this man is very dangerous. Captain Huang said that his information is suspicious everywhere. You'd better stay away from him with me. He must have a purpose for approaching you. While speaking, Zhang Ru stared at Yang Chung with great vigilance, for fear that the suspect would explode. Jane bit her lip and held back from laughing exaggeratedly. Maintaining a bit of restraint, she winked mischievously at Yang Chung. The meaning was very clear. She thought it was very interesting and wanted to watch a good show. Yang Chung was completely speechless about this Zhang Ru. If it weren't for that woman being his wife, he would have taken out his mobile phone and smashed her. At this moment, he could only say to Huang Ziyun, Captain Huang, do you mind if I make a call? I can prove my innocence. Huang Ziyun crossed her hands in front of her chest and said arrogantly, Of course you can, but every word you say will be used as evidence in court. Yang Chung sighed and directly dialed Li Dun's phone number and asked him to contact the National Intelligence Agency of South Korea. Only they could directly manage this situation. Chapter 1426. When Li Dun received Yang Chen's call and heard about it, he laughed so hard he almost fainted. However, he was a little embarrassed because he had used Yang Chung before, so he quickly relayed the situation to the Korean side on behalf of Yang Chung. A few minutes later, Huang Xiaoyan received a call from her superior, ordering her to release Yang Chung immediately. Originally, Huang Xiaoyan wanted to ask a few more questions because Yang Chung was really suspicious, but her superior's order was very firm. She was not allowed to ask any more questions and only treated as a VIP. This time, Huang Xiaoyan was a little embarrassed. She signaled her subordinates to step aside and bowed to Yang Chung with a stiff face. I'm sorry, Mr. Yang. Our information was wrong. Yang Chung was too lazy to pay attention to her. He strode straight to Zhang Ru and frowned. I don't care if you have a problem with me, but you'd better not do this kind of stupid thing again. Otherwise, I won't care if you're a Jane student or not. You won't even have the chance to regret it. Yang Chung exerted a little pressure on Zhang Ru, which made her angry but not dare to say anything. She only felt an irresistible majesty, which made her feel very uncomfortable. But she saw with her own eyes that Huang Xiaoyan publicly bowed to Yang Chung, which showed that Yang Cheng's background was definitely not ordinary. She had guessed wrong. Jane, who was on the side, reached out and held Zhang Ru's cold hand. She rolled her eyes at Yang Chung and said, All right, my dear Yang Chung, don't scare her. She was just thinking about my safety. Yang Chung also wanted to scare this woman to not meddle in other people's business. Jane gave him a way out, so he went along with it. Okay, I'll listen to you. Let's go. Yang Chung took Jane's hand and turned to the elevator. After Yang Chung and Jane left, Huang Xiuyan walked to the side of Zhang Ru, who was a little lost. She sighed and said, Professor Zhang, it seems that there was really a mistake. Thank you for reminding me. But now, I want to check the security situation of the opening ceremony for the last time. I still have to attend the opening ceremony tomorrow, so rest early. Zhang Ru nodded blankly and watched the police leave the hall one after another. She stood there alone and could not help but feel a little lonely. At the same time, Yang Chung and Jane took the elevator to the top floor of the hotel hand in hand. On the top floor, apart from the 2 presidential suites, there was a blue open-air swimming pool and a series of leisure and entertainment facilities specially built for the hotel's VIPs. When Yang Chung and Lin Sanju walked to the door, they suddenly discovered that there were 2 bodyguards in black standing outside their room. There was also a hotel manager pacing back and forth in front of the door. Who are you? Yang Chung frowned. The hotel manager immediately greeted them and smiled apologetically. This must be Mr. Yang and Miss Jane. It's like this. Due to an emergency, your room needs to be adjusted. Adjustment? What do you mean? Jane was puzzled. The manager explained, because of the government and the police's temporary decision, some important officials from other cities will attend the Buddha Heart Sarara opening ceremony tomorrow, as well as the president of the Buddhist Association, Abbess Yu Lian, and Director Master Zaheo, will all stay in our hotel. And all the business suites and luxury suites in our hotel are already full. As for the remaining 2 presidential suites, one has been given to a few senior monks in the country, and the other one has to be reserved for Abbess Yu Lian and Master Zaheo. Yang Chang sneered. We booked the room first and paid for it. Now you want to change it just because you say so? This is also a last resort. Rest assured, Mr. Yang, we will compensate you double the amount. The manager kept bowing his head and apologized. Please understand our difficulties. After all, Abbess Yu Lian is a person of virtue and prestige. If she stays in an ordinary room, it will make things difficult for the hotel's management. Moreover, this is also what the several senior officers asked us to do. I don't want to listen to these reasons. If you don't make them scram out of the room I booked, then I'll kick them out. Yang Chung couldn't help but get angry. Today was really strange. He was treated as a spy by the police, and even his room was taken away for no reason. Seeing that Yang Chung was unwilling, the manager's face darkened and he said gloomily, Mr. Yang, please pay attention to your words. Tomorrow's opening ceremony is one of the most important events in the Republic of Korea this year. Abbess Yu Lian is a master who opened the light for the Buddha Heart Sarara and is revered by thousands of people. If you don't let her rest well, you're going against the Republic of Korea? Yang Chung sneered. You finally revealed your true nature. In the end, you're just chasing us out. So what? This is an official decision. I'm just fulfilling my duty. A thief nun sleeps in the same room as a monk, and you still say that you're revered by thousands of people? I want to see what kind of dirty business these 2 are doing inside. Yang Chung directly pushed the manager away. How could the manager's small body take it? With a bang sound, he slammed into the wall, and his bones were about to fall apart. The 2 bodyguards noticed that something was wrong and immediately came forward. They stood in front of Yang Chung like 2 small mountains. One of the Korean men said fiercely, Scram. This is the territory of the Republic of Korea. Hwaxia's monkey, don't embarrass yourself. Monkey is your ancestor. Without saying a word, Yang Cheng's hands slapped the shoulders of the 2 men at lightning speed. Ka-ka. The shoulders of the 2 men were dislocated from the slap. The 2 bodyguards shrieked in pain. They wanted to use their remaining arms to fight back, but Yang Chen caught their fists and easily squeezed them. The bodyguards didn't know what happened to the bones in their hands, but they had already broken into a ball. The pain made their eyes roll back, and they directly fainted. The noise outside finally attracted the attention of the people in the suite. The bodyguards who were guarding other places also rushed over. A total of 7 or 8 burly bodyguards surrounded Yang Chung and Jane. The door was opened. Master Zihao, who was wearing a yellow monk's robe and holding prayer beads, walked out. The monk looked at the situation in front of the door and revealed a shocked expression. Ba, benefactor, why is this happening? As Master Zihao spoke, he even walked to the wall and helped the hotel manager who was wailing in pain up. The manager's face turned green as he said, Master, this Hua Xia is very vicious. Quickly get the bodyguards to beat him out. The bodyguards looked at Zihao and waited for the mage to speak. However, Zihao's expression was awkward, and he could not bear to give the order. Ba, forgive people when you can. This benefactor is surrounded by a murderous aura. Harming others and harming yourself? Why bother? An old female voice came from the room. Master Zihao, the manager, and the group of bodyguards immediately bowed respectfully. Abbess Yulian, who was dressed in a nun's attire, seemed to be chanting Buddhist scriptures in her room. Walking out, she looked at Yang Chun with a kind expression and said, Almsgiver, this poor nun and junior brother Zaheo are both monks. Originally, we didn't want to fight over this residence with the two of you, but unfortunately, this happened too suddenly. A few important people hoped that this poor nun and junior brother Zaheo could stay here to ensure safety. Could benefactor consider this poor nun's kind advice? Even if it's not for the monk's face, for the Buddha's sake, please agree to change your residence tonight. This poor nun guarantees that no one will pursue tonight's matter. Abbess Yulian is really compassionate. The manager immediately flattered. Abbess Yulian's gaze was especially gentle, like a pool of lake water in the mountains, clear, quiet, indifferent, but with traces of wonderful ripples. This kind of dreamy and illusory gaze made one's mind unconsciously fall into it. Unable to extricate themselves, the bodyguards, the manager, and even Zihao seemed to relax after looking at Yulian. They looked at Yulian with sincerity. Yang Cheng, on the other hand, frowned. He felt that this gaze was very strange. It was as if a strange thing was knocking on his mind, making his mind a little chaotic. He then looked at Jane beside him and realized that the woman was actually looking at Yulian like everyone else, revealing a look of admiration. Thief! How dare you hypnotize me? Yang Cheng suddenly understood and roared in Mandarin. His voice was like a great bell, like thunder, stirring up the entire corridor in front of the door. Zihao, the manager, and the others were startled by Yang Chen's shout, but they soon regained their composure. They didn't understand what Yang Chen was shouting about. Jane looked at Yang Cheng in surprise. She clearly heard the word hypnotize and couldn't help but look at Yulian in astonishment. A cold light flashed in Yulian's eyes. There was a hint of panic and bewilderment, but it was only for a fleeting moment. She said very gently, Benefactor, since you are still not willing to exchange with junior brother then I will not force you. I will just assume that benefactor has no affinity with Buddhism. Let us part here. Chapter 1427. Yang Cheng sneered. What? I saw through your hypnosis and you want to escape. If your followers knew that the master was just a cover and the real master was hypnosis, what do you think they would think? From Yulian's expression, Yang Cheng could tell that this nun understood Chinese, so he spoke in Chinese. This time, Yulian also spoke in Chinese and said solemnly, I don't understand what you're talking about. Please don't make wild guesses. After saying that, Yulian signaled Zihao and the bodyguards, who were still confused, to walk towards the elevator. These people didn't understand what Yulian was saying, because Yulian's expression was very sacred, so they thought that she was promoting some Buddhist doctrine. Yang Cheng felt that things weren't over yet and wanted to say something, but he was pulled back by Jane, who shook her head and advised, She's the president of the Korean Buddhist Association. We don't have any evidence to prove that she used hypnosis. Messing with her will only cause trouble. We should keep a low profile this time. We haven't even seen the Buddha Heart Sarira yet. Let's put everything else aside for now. Yang Cheng agreed. Although this damned nun was very suspicious, his own cultivation was more important. After all, the people she harmed were Koreans, so it had nothing to do with him. This damned nun's hypnosis is not simple. Even someone with a strong, like he was almost hypnotized by her, just now. If it wasn't for my strong will, the fact that I inherited the divine spark, and the fact that my spiritual force is far superior to mortals, I wouldn't have been able to see through her hypnosis so easily. Yang Chung sighed. However, Jane said hesitantly, I don't think that's hypnosis. Hypnosis is actually a kind of psychological suggestion. It can achieve its goal by relaxing the body and mind, stimulating a certain sensory organ, focusing one's attention or imagination, etc. Yu Yin's hypnosis doesn't conform to the scientific definition of hypnosis at all. I feel that she might have some special ability or some secret technique. When Yang Chung heard this, he also felt that there were many strange things in this world. Whether it was adepts or cultivators, they all had special abilities. After Yu Yin's group left, no one came to disturb Yang Chung and Yu Yin's rest. Perhaps it was because she was afraid of Yang Chung, or perhaps it was because she had a guilty conscience, but Yu Yin was too embarrassed to think of a way to get back at Yang Chung. After all, no one else knew about the hypnosis. Late at night, Yang Chung lay on the big bed. He couldn't help but think about Jinxiu, so he couldn't sleep. Jane leaned against the man's side, one arm around his waist, and asked softly, Do you regret it? What? Didn't you tell Jinxiu to obediently marry Kim Jip? Yang Chung silently touched the woman's hair and did not answer. Actually, since Lin Ruoxi wants to divorce you, no one will object if you bring Jinxiu back to Zhonghai, Jane said. Yang Chung laughed bitterly. Jane, even you have times when you are confused. I agreed to separate from Ruoxi because I think she will be happier than staying by my side. I accept any one of you because I want you to be happy, not because you are my spoils of war, and not because of my possessiveness. You may not know this, but Tang Tang had those thoughts at that time, but I always stopped her, because I know she is still young and doesn't understand a lot of things. Yuan Yi is a man she can trust, so I think she will understand sooner or later that being with Yuan Yi is the most suitable. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Tang Tang to understand, and that's why everything happened today. Jinxiu and Tang Tang are about the same age. The reason why she is so close to me, I think to a large extent, is because I helped her a little when she was at her most lonely and helpless. Her feelings for me may be more gratitude and dependence. It's just that she can't tell. Although there is no one like Yuan Yi around Jinxiu, she shouldn't be with me. Sooner or later, she will regret it, regret such a young and reckless decision. As for Kim Jip, I think he is very reliable. Even if he hasn't really fallen in love with Jinxiu, he won't let Jinxiu suffer. Yang Chung finished his sentence slowly. His emotions were evident in his words and actions. For a long time, Jane did not respond. Yang Chung felt a little strange and looked down. Looking over, only to find that Jane was looking at him with a pair of beautiful sapphire eyes. There was some indescribable charm. Yang Chung blushed and coughed. What are you looking at? Do you think I'm great? Jane shook her head slightly, her soft hair rubbing against Yang Cheng's arm, emitting bursts of natural fragrance. Darling, let's do it. The soft and gentle words made Yang Chung feel his entire lower abdomen was already burning. The crazy secretion of adrenaline made his scalp tingle and his ears hot. After 2 heavy breaths, Yang Chung rejected, Forget it, before you enter the innate stage, I will never do that. It will greatly reduce your cultivation. Jane smiled charmingly and said in her seductive English, I've studied what's going on with the primordial yin you mentioned. From a medical point of view, it's just that you can't enter the vagina routinely, but we can do it anal. My mother said you like to enter her behind. Yang Chung was about to cry. Dr. Jane, can we not use medical terms to describe such an ambiguous matter? Also, how can Catherine tell her daughter this? Jane pouted. It's not like you don't know. As long as she's in front of me, her IQ never exceeds 10 years old. All right, stop it. Yang Cheng's expression turned serious and touched the woman's face. I can't accept using that method for the first time with you. I will feel sorry for you and will always have regrets. Jane was slightly startled. Then 2 red clouds appeared on her face. She nodded happily and said nothing more. The Buddha Heart Sura opening ceremony the next day was carried out as scheduled. Early in the morning, as important guests of the Park family, Yang Chung and Jane were both qualified to enter the venue of the ceremony. Last night's incident made Zhang feel quite awkward when she saw Yang Cheng again, but there was still a lot of dissatisfaction in her eyes. She felt that Yang Cheng was too overbearing and was definitely not a good person. However, as the main researcher, Zhang was busy checking the content of the final academic speech with the Korean government and did not have the time to care about this. On this day, the ancient Shaoxi temple was also decorated with gold and jade, and the Buddha's aura shone brightly. Senior monks led their respective disciples and chanted sutras loudly in every corner of the venue. Abbess Yulian of the Buddhist Association was naturally the moon surrounded by stars. This nun was not affected by last night's incident. Her face was red as she chatted with a group of monks from all over the world and was pursued by guests from all over the world. According to the schedule, in the morning, the senior Korean officials would talk about the excavation and research of the Buddha Heart Sarira. At noon, the Sarira, which was strictly guarded by the army, would appear in the center of Shaoxi Temple and be worshipped by guests from all over the world. After noon, the Buddha Heart Sarira would be arranged to enter the inner hall of Shaoxi Temple, and Abbess Yulian would lead a group of Korean senior monks to open it. The opening ceremony would last until the evening, and during this time, other guests would attend the banquet in the banquet hall of the hotel closest to the temple. As monks abstained from alcohol, although it was called a banquet, it was actually just some fruit juice and vegetarian dishes. After the opening ceremony at night, everyone would return to Shaoxi Temple to pay their respects to the Buddha Heart Sarira. After being worshipped in the monastery for 3 days, the relic would once again be monitored by the military. Only when the pure gold Buddha statue tailored for the relic was completed and the relic was placed into the Buddha statue would it be revealed to the world. After all, such a huge golden Buddha statue was not something that could be snatched or destroyed by those lawbreakers. When Park Cheon appeared with Jinxiu and the Park family, he immediately became one of the most eye-catching families in the venue. After exchanging pleasantries for a while, they finally arrived at their reserved seats. As Jinxiu's fiancé, Kim Jip was no longer suitable to follow Park Cheon around, so he entered with Lawyer Kim and kept a low profile as usual. Following closely behind them was the Gong family, led by Gong Jicheng and Gong Wu. Now that Park Cheon had recovered, the Gong family was no longer as arrogant as they used to be in Seoul's upper-class society. Yang Cheng was acquainted with both the Park and Gong families, so it was inevitable for him to greet them. He also noticed that Gong Wu, the young man who once wanted to marry Jinxiu, would occasionally glance coldly at Jinxiu. Dressed in a ladylike dress, Jinxiu was even plainer than the day before. Her pretty face was stained with frost. When she saw Yang Cheng, she only glanced at him indifferently and ignored him. It was obvious that she was still angry at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng did not find it strange this time. It was only natural that Jinxiu did not want to talk to him. He smiled calmly and sat down with Jane to wait for the ceremony to begin. The ceremony in the morning was mainly broadcasted by the TV station to provide an explanation to the people of South Korea. Most of the speeches were boring speeches and simple research reports on the Buddha Heart relic. Yang Cheng waited until noon in boredom. Finally, he saw the officials step down from the stage and the army and the Buddhist monks enter the center of the venue to welcome the Buddha Heart relic. At that moment, Yang Cheng suddenly felt a strange movement in his dantian. The two opposing forces were the heaven and earth energy from the endless resolve restoration scripture and the chaos energy from the chaos cauldron. They were in a deadlock. However, for a moment, Yang Cheng felt that the chaos energy seemed to be afraid and retreated a little. Chapter 1428. Although it was only for a moment, Yang Cheng's cultivation showed signs of recovery, and chaos once again exerted its strength to fight against him. It was enough to make Yang Cheng ecstatic. Jane noticed that Yang Cheng's body was trembling slightly. She asked nervously, "Hubby, what's wrong?" Yang Cheng grinned and held Jane's little hand. Chaos reacted. It seemed to have sensed that the Buddha's Heart Sarira was approaching. Just now, its power retreated a little, but it quickly fought against me again. It seemed to be trying to hide something. Jane's eyes lit up. So, chaos felt threatened? I can't feel whether the Buddha's heart Saraira has a strong spiritual power or not. But judging from Chaos's behavior, that thing might really be useful. As long as it can break the stalemate in my Dantian and increase my strength, I'll be able to counter Chaos. Yangchen calmed down. This wasn't the time to be excited yet. He looked at the place where the relic entered. Accompanied by endless chanting of Buddha's name, 8 monks finally carried a square platform made of redwood into the venue. On the high platform, a square box was concealed by a golden silk cloth that was covered with Buddhist scriptures. After the platform was placed in the center of the venue, Abbess Yulian chanted the Buddhist scriptures and walked to the square box. She nodded slightly and reached out to slowly remove the silk cloth for a moment. The Buddha's heart Saraira that all the dignitaries and celebrities were looking forward to finally appeared in everyone's eyes. In a special transparent explosion-proof glass cabinet, a heart-shaped reddish-gold object was emitting a faint soft light under the sunlight. That wisp of red and gold-colored glass that moved the heart and soul caused many people to arouse the desire to prostrate themselves in worship. It really does possess indescribable Buddha nature. This time, Yang Cheng could clearly feel that the chaos in his Dantian was very unstable. Sometimes it wanted to be fierce, and sometimes it was timid. It was completely different from the domineering state it was in before. Yang Cheng thought to himself, so, you also have something to fear. No one knew if primal chaos was enraged because of this, but the ferocious power of primal chaos once again overturned the seas. However, with Yang Cheng's current strength, he was still able to control it without causing any trouble. Mr. Yang, it seems like this trip to the Buddha heart relic is worth it. Even if I'm not a Buddhist, this relic is still able to cleanse my soul. Park Cheon chuckled beside him. Yang Cheng replied with a smile, but in his heart he said, I'm not here to look, I'm here to take it away. After receiving the Buddhist rites and worship from the guests from all over, Priestess Yulian led a group of senior monks to the inner hall of the Shaoxi Temple and officially began chanting sutras to consecrate the light. Seeing this, Yang Cheng made a move to walk towards the relic. Sigh. Jane hurriedly pulled Yang Cheng back, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She said in a small language that no one else could understand, Hubby, even if you want the relic, you can't snatch it so blatantly now. I'm not going to snatch it. I'm just asking them to lend it to me. If it's useless, I'll return it to them. Yang Cheng chuckled. Jane glared at him. If this isn't snatching, then what is it? Look here. Even though the reporters have left, there are still hundreds of guests, police officers, and a regiment of Korean army stationed outside. Not to mention the private bodyguards. If you were to snatch the relic right under their noses, wouldn't they fight you to the death? Yang Cheng replied nonchalantly. What's there to be afraid of? I'll kill whoever dares to stop me from taking the relic. I'll kill as many as they come. In order to restore his cultivation, Yang Cheng didn't care about these people's lives at all. If they really dared to make a move on him, he would kill them. After all, he was in Korea, Hwaxia, and the other big shots wouldn't stop him. You can get it without anyone noticing. Why do you have to go against the whole of Korea? Have you forgotten that I said before I came here that I have a way? Jane blinked. Yang Cheng scratched his head and pointed at his ear. Let's hear it. Jane immediately whispered her plan into Yang Cheng's ear. The method was actually very simple. Before Jane came to Korea, she had asked Zhang Ru for a research report on the Buddha's heart relic. She said that she was helping her to check it, but in fact, she was recording some of the elements of the Buddha's heart relic. Jane's secret 3D printing technology was 100 times better than other scientific research labs in the world. If needed, she could create a super realistic Buddha's heart relic anytime in a short period of time. All they had to do was find a quiet night, and Jane would use her hacking skills to hack the alarm system in Shaoxi Temple. Then, Yang Chen would sneak in and switch the real one with the fake one. It would be a piece of cake. Even if the Koreans found out, other scientists wouldn't be able to find out that the Buddha's heart relic was fake. Even if they found out that it was fake, no one would know that it was Yang Cheng who took the relic. After listening to Jane, Yang Cheng nodded and smiled. That's a good idea. Anyway, the relic will still be in Shaoxi Temple for the next 3 days. With our abilities, it won't be difficult to steal it. along with a heaven-shaking Buddhist chant. The Buddha's heart relic was finally sent into the inner hall of Chaoshi Temple. Although it was impossible to get close to the inner hall from the outside, there was still an entire regiment of military forces and a large team of police officers guarding outside the temple. It would be very difficult for any criminals to cause damage from the outside. Although Yang Cheng was a little tempted, he had no choice but to listen to Jane's advice and wait for her to make the fake Buddha's heart relic. However, Yang Cheng had made up his mind to stay near Chaoshi Temple for the next few days. He absolutely couldn't let anything happen to him. If the Buddha's heart relic disappeared, it would be a big problem. At this time, Park Cheon came up and said, "Mr. Yang, this old man can't attend the afternoon's banquet. I still have to bring Jinxiu to make the final preparations for tomorrow's wedding. The two of you will take your leave here." Yang Cheng didn't plan to attend any banquet, and he wasn't interested in getting to know those people. So he said, "Jinxiu is getting married. As her brother, I should also prepare some dowry. Let's go together. I'll go prepare something too." When Jinxiu heard Yang Cheng mention the dowry, her face became colder and colder. She looked at Yang Cheng with resentment in her bright eyes. However, Yang Cheng didn't change his mind. This wedding should be done as it should be. He couldn't let a girl do whatever she wanted just because of her willful thoughts. Since he had chosen to return to this big family, he should have been mentally prepared for this. Park Cheon was overjoyed, thinking that Yang Cheng was going to give him some elixir. He immediately agreed and led the crowd out of the temple. However, just as the guests were about to leave the temple, a loud boom was heard. An explosion? The deafening clap of thunder sent the women into a frenzy of screams. They were frightened by the sudden explosion. Yang Cheng immediately looked to the south of Chaoshi Temple, less than a mile away. There, smoke and dust filled the air. That was where the huge explosion had come from. What made the guests in the venue even more panicked was that gunshots had started raging again. Toot-toot-toot-toot-toot. A series of submachine guns rained down on the outer wall of the temple. Screams of Korean men could be heard from all directions. The entire Chaoshi Temple was covered in blood. What's going on? Where's the police? Where are the soldiers? A Korean military officer who had rushed to the podium yelled into the microphone. The 3 stars on his military rank indicated that he was a lieutenant general in the military. He was an extraordinary person. After all, the opening ceremony was a national ceremony. The military had also sent a few iconic figures to participate. A Korean soldier with a crooked hat rushed in and cried at the general on the podium, "General Chung, this is bad. The 27th Regiment outside has betrayed us." "What?" General Chung's eyes widened in anger. He was stunned for a moment. However, not long after, a group of more than 100 blood-stained soldiers rushed in fiercely. Their leader was a muscular man with a beard. Although he was wearing an army uniform, his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. The man had thrown his cap away and was holding a submachine gun in each hand. He fired wildly into the sky as soon as he entered the door. This frightening scene made the celebrities and dignitaries present turn pale, and they retreated to the inner area of the venue dejectedly. "Be good and don't move. We've surrounded the entire temple. The police and the army are done for," the bearded man announced with a cold smile. Chapter 1429. None of the people present were fools. When they heard this, most of them had guessed what had happened just now. It turned out that this group of terrorists had sneaked into the South Korean army outside, and while the real army and police were careless, they suddenly exploded and annihilated them. Everyone could guess that if it wasn't for the fact that someone had arranged for these terrorists, it would have been impossible for them to do all of this. After all, if it wasn't for special circumstances, an official regiment of soldiers wouldn't be able to casually carry out a mission. At this time, Yang Cheng was also a little surprised. He never thought that other than himself, there would be someone else who cared so much about this Buddha heart relic. However, before the situation was clear, Yang Cheng did not plan to interfere. Are you from North Buyu?" General Zhong asked in a deep voice. The bearded man laughed evilly. He raised a submachine gun and aimed it at the lieutenant general on the stage. "General Zhong Jun of the Combat Command, I recognize you. The officers under you have already been killed by me. Everyone here is our man. I advise you to be like the others and scram to the side. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Perhaps we will spare your dog life." Zhong Jun's face turned purple, and he was extremely angry. However, facing the muzzle of the gun, he finally softened. He was still young and didn't want to lose his life in vain. This group of people were completely desperate. At the same time, Zhong Jun was also glad that the reporters had already been invited out. Otherwise, if they saw his weak side in the report, wouldn't his position be in danger? "Brother Hao, the hostages are all here. They are all women, so it's easy to deal with them." A man with a lewd laugh led a dozen or so terrorists to the center of the venue. Each of them had a gun pointed at a female hostage. Zhang Ru. Jane was a little surprised to see that Zhang Ru had also been captured by those people. She was pointing a gun at him with a face full of panic and tears. As a researcher, Zhang Ru was one of the first to leave the venue. She didn't expect that because of this, she would be caught red-handed by the terrorists. "Well done." His eyes fell on Huang Xiuyan, who was in a police uniform. He grinned and said, "Oh, isn't this Captain Huang? I'm really sorry. You've been so careful to guard against us, but you've been disappointed. We've been watching your deployment. You've done a good job." This was undoubtedly a great mockery to Huang Xiuyan. She had been assigning tasks for so long, yet she did not notice that there was a problem with her own people. Huang Xiuyan's face was flushed red with humiliation. She spat fiercely. "Damn North Bio bastards. Do you think you can still escape? Very soon, this place will be surrounded by the army. You won't be able to escape." "Ha ha! Didn't you hear the explosion just now?" How sneered. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Huang Su-yun cried out involuntarily, You planted a bomb in Seoul?" "That's right. We have randomly selected some residential areas and downtown areas in Seoul and planted high explosives there. If anything happens to us, those explosives will detonate. If you want to kill tens of thousands of Seoul residents in order to capture us, then send the army over," Hao said slowly. "Moreover, unfortunately, I don't know where the remote control explosives are, nor do I know how many remote control devices there are." The countless distinguished guests present were so panicked that they couldn't speak. It was as if the air had frozen. This group of terrorists was so crazy that they did not hesitate to use the lives of tens of thousands of ordinary people to threaten them. "Are you doing this for the Buddha Heart Sarira?" Zhong Jun asked. "General Zhong, aren't you spouting nonsense? Otherwise, would we have come here to pray to Buddha and burn incense?" Ahau snorted coldly, waved his hand, and said, "Men, go in and bring me the Sarira. Those eminent monks are all respected figures. Bring them out as well." More than 10 armed North Bio immediately rushed into the rear hall of Shaoxi Temple upon hearing the order. After a commotion in the rear hall, gunshots suddenly rang out, startling the celebrities outside. They were all scared out of their wits, afraid that the bullets would land on their bodies. Very quickly, a person rushed out carrying the special transparent box of the Buddha Heart Sarira. The soldiers behind him seemed to be stained with a lot of blood, and at the same time, they were also holding 7 or 8 eminent monks hostage. Abbess Yu Lian, Master Zi Hao, and the others from the Buddhist Association were also captured. However, their expressions were still solemn, as if they were not afraid. When Jane saw this scene, she frowned and said to Yang Chung, "Hubby, that Abbess Yu Lian clearly has hypnosis. Why didn't she hypnotize these soldiers? Could it be that she did it on purpose? I'm not sure about that. That nun is not a good person either. Perhaps she is an accomplice of the North Bio. After all, the North Bio has a strong network, and many of the higher-ups in Korea are their people. However, it could also be that her hypnosis technique is unable to hypnotize too many people. If that's the case, if she resists, she will be easily killed by those people, so she can only be captured." Yang Chung said calmly. Jane was a little puzzled. "Why don't you seem to be anxious? The Buddha Heart Sarira has been taken by them." Yang Chung smiled relaxedly. "Isn't that better? I just need to follow those people and snatch the Sarira. Anyway, all the responsibility will be pushed to the North Bio, and it will save us the trouble of stealing it." Jane covered her mouth and laughed. You really have a belly full of evil ideas. But this is good. Since the North Bio dared to make a move on me last time, you should teach them a good lesson this time. They can disregard the lives of tens of thousands of civilians, so their deaths will not be regretted. At this time, the man called Ahau gave a few more orders. He ordered a group of North Bio survivors to hold Zhang Ru, Huang Xiuyan, and a group of female hostages, as well as Abbess Yulian and the other eminent monks, to lead the way out of Shaoxi Temple. As for the remaining troops, they pointed their guns at the back to prevent some powerful bodyguard from suddenly going up to do anything. Outside Shaoxi Temple, alarms were already ringing, and the police and military in Seoul were quickly sending reinforcements. However, because a large number of hostages were in the hands of the North Bio, and a large number of explosives were hidden somewhere, even the upper echelons of South Korea were helpless. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation, so South Korea immediately cut off all the media reports from all over the world. All the communication devices were also cut off. For a time, the entire Seoul became a sealed-off, forbidden area. The army controlled the streets, and the civilians did not understand what was going on. A wave of panic enveloped the entire Seoul. Ahau led his men and captured Lieutenant General Zhong Jun. He took him as a hostage outside Shaoxi Temple and confronted the South Korean military. General Zhong Jun, we kept you alive so that you could send a message to your colleagues. Ahau pointed his gun at Zhong Jun's chin and sneered. Our ship is already waiting for us on the Han River. We will take the hostages and the Buddha Heart Saraira with us. We will head to the sea, board the ship, and then head to the high seas. When we think it's safe, we will naturally release these monks and hostages. I'll give you 5 minutes to make your decision. If you don't answer after 5 minutes, we will detonate a bomb. Every minute, we will detonate a couple of bombs. Until you agree, or until tens of thousands of people die in Seoul. Zhong Jun's face was ashen, but he didn't dare to disobey. He could only nod his head silently. When Ahau let him go, Zhong Jun immediately ran towards the Korean army. Bam! Suddenly, the Desert Eagle in Ahau's hand fired, hitting one of Zhong Jun's right knees. Blood splattered everywhere as Zhong Jun knelt on the ground with a thud. General, you should crawl back slowly. Ahau laughed maniacally, while the other terrorists from the North Bio Nation also laughed out loud. This crazy laughter caused the Korean soldiers on the other side to break out in cold sweat. They didn't even dare to go up to help Zhong Jun up, afraid that they would also be shot. Zhong Jun was in so much pain that his facial muscles were trembling, but he still crawled back to his own formation with all his might, dragging out a bloody path. Seeing all of this, the generals and officials all had gloomy expressions on their faces, but they did not dare to get angry. The hostages captured by the North Bio Nation were a small matter, but the large number of bombs they had buried was the biggest factor that made the Korean government unable to move. After all, the population density of Seoul was too high. The strength of the North Bio Nation once again caused the upper echelons of South Korea to tremble in fear. To be able to transport a large number of explosives into Seoul without anyone noticing was a great shame to the intelligence agency. Chapter 1430. Inside the venue, although the North Bio people had retreated, there were still people guarding the entrance. Hundreds of celebrities and dignitaries from all walks of life did not dare to move. Everyone's nerves were stretched taut. No one knew if the North Bio people would go crazy and start a massacre. After all, they were all outlaws. Park Cheon, who had been through life and death, was very calm. He analyzed how to protect his family while observing the reactions of the people around him. To Park Cheon's surprise, Jinxiu did not seem nervous or afraid at all. The girl looked around from time to time, as if searching for something. Child, what are you looking for? Park Cheon asked. Jinxiu's expression remained impassive as she replied, Mr. Yang, heir? Mr. Yang is missing. Park Cheon was taken aback. Kim Jip and the others who heard this also looked over in surprise. Their eyes fell on Jane. At Jane's side, Yangshin was no longer there. Don't ask me. I don't know where he went. Jane winked playfully. Yang Chung had naturally left the temple. Now that the Buddha Heart Saraira was out of his sight, Yang Chung made his move. It was not difficult for Yang Chung to avoid the North Bio people who were guarding the entrance. With a few blind spots, Yang Chung moved to the edge of the wall and jumped out of the wall. The North Bio people had already reached the main entrance. There were some Korean soldiers outside, dealing with the corpses of the dead policemen and soldiers. When they saw Yang Chung suddenly jump out from behind the tall wall, they were shocked. However, Yang Cheng's speed was so fast that before they could see Yang Cheng's face clearly, Yang Chung had already rushed out of the encirclement like a gust of wind and disappeared into the green forest outside. The soldiers who were busy sealing off the scene and dealing with the corpses thought they had run into a ghost. In their shock, they did not give chase. Yang Cheng's figure was like a ghost. The assassin's ability to hide had long been ingrained in Yang Cheng's bones. In addition, his speed was so fast that it was completely inhuman. It was difficult to catch him with the naked eye, and no one could detect his movements. In just a short while, Yang Chung had already arrived at a corner of a large building outside the Chaoshi Monastery, looking at the hundreds of North Bio warriors from afar. The Buddha Heart Saraira was already in Hao's hands, looking at the military people mockingly. The frontline commander of the military was on the phone with the higher-ups, wiping his cold sweat anxiously. Clearly, the higher-ups were also hesitating. It's already been 3 minutes, and there's still no reply. TSK. Looks like the leader of the Republic of Korea doesn't take the lives of the people seriously. Ahao smiled at the hostage, Huang Xiuyan, and said, "Captain Huang, your superior is too heartless. Why don't you join our North Bio?" Wishful thinking. If you dare to detonate the explosives, you will cause a huge commotion. The whole world will come together to attack you. At that time, you will be finished. Huang Xiuyan sneered. "Ha!" Ahao suddenly slapped Huang Xiuyan's face. "Cut the crap. We've already blown up one. We don't care about the second or third. The whole world? Who do you think we're giving the Buddha Heart Saraira to? The countries in this world only care about benefits. Everything else is just empty words. You are already in your 40s, and you still believe the words of politicians to deceive children. Amitabha, benefactor, the Buddha Heart Saraira carries the power of Buddha's Vajra. Aren't you afraid of Buddha's reprimand for your tyranny?" Abbess Yu Lien said righteously. "Stupid nun, shut up. I only believe in the gun in my hand," Ahao said as he slapped Yu Lien's face again. A red mark immediately appeared on Yu Lien's face. Master Zi Hao and the other monks at the side shouted, "Amitabha," and looked at Abbess Yu Lien worriedly, but no one dared to make a sound. Ahao looked at his watch and called out to the military commander. "It's already 4.5 minutes. Looks like you are very curious about which area we will detonate first. Wait," the military commander shouted. "We agree to your request, but you're not allowed to hurt the hostages. Everyone in the venue must also ensure their safety. Cut the crap. If you agree, then get out of the way and drive the vehicles over." Ahao shouted fiercely with a face full of beard. He looked like an unruly Middle Eastern gangster. The people in the military could only grit their teeth and drive the military trucks that were originally loaded with soldiers over. Ahao sent a few of his subordinates to check the trucks with the equipment they had prepared beforehand. After making sure there were no dangerous devices, he led the people into the trucks one after another. More than 20 hostages were escorted into the 3 trucks. They were all pointed at with guns. There was no chance of a one-off rescue. The military watched the 3 trucks drive away, but there was nothing they could do. In such a short time, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find the bombs in various areas of Seoul. It was simply impossible. Moreover, among the hostages, Abbess Yu Lien and the other monks had countless believers. Most of the women were from rich and powerful families. None of them could die easily. After Yang Chung saw the vehicles leave, he followed them from afar. Although the speed of the trucks was fast, Yang Chung could still catch up easily. On the way to Han River, the people in the military only dared to watch from afar. They did not dare let the North Bio people think that they were being hunted. On the Han River, 2 yachts were already waiting. Although the South Korean military helicopters in the sky had already discovered them, they did not dare to launch an attack. Ahau led the remaining North Bio people out of the trucks. After boarding the 2 yachts with the hostages, they headed in the direction of the estuary. Watching the yachts leave from afar, Yang Chung could not help but grit his teeth. The South Korean military was still watching. Although he could snatch the Buddha Heart Sarira, it would not be convenient for him to take it away openly. From the looks of it, he could only follow them to the high seas. After all, even if the military came to surround them, there was no need to worry about taking away an ownerless object in the high seas. Of course, if he could find more people from the North Bio, killing them all would be a good way to avenge Jane. The high seas, that was a long distance away. He could not use spatial laws, and he would have to follow them secretly. He needed to be fast enough. Yang Chung looked at the water of Han River and sighed. Fortunately, his physical fitness was at a freakish level. It was just swimming to the high seas. There was no problem with his stamina. After checking that there was no one around, Yang Chung took off his clothes and threw them into his spatial ring. Then, he jumped into the river with a splash. Yang Chung was like a human-shaped submarine. His speed was not as fast as running on land, but it was fast enough for him to catch up. The yacht's spiral motion produced a faint sound underwater, but it was enough for Yang Chung to follow. Even after the North Bio people left, the South Korean officials did not relax. They continued to search every corner of Seoul for the bombs that had not been detonated. Before confirming that the bombs had been cleared, the military did not dare to take any action. As for this incident, they covered it up and lied about it. The government was also very busy. Compared to the face of the country, the whereabouts of the Buddha Heart Sarira and the hostages were a small matter. For hours later, the 2 yachts had entered the high seas. The sky had darkened, and a crescent moon was already hanging in the sky. A Russian-made Type 956 destroyer was already parked on the high seas. When the 2 yachts approached, the personnel were transferred to the destroyer. After Ahau led the North Bio people onto the ship, a white general wearing a New Zealand Navy cap shook hands with him and said in English, "Chief Howe, you have done a great service this time. I believe the chief will reward you handsomely." "Thank you for your kind words, General Mason. I have troubled you to bring a ship here at the last minute," Ahau said politely. "This is all for the chief. Without the chief, Mason, would not be here today. I'm happy to help. You have done much better than your predecessor, Chief Ko-chuk. I have high hopes for you," Mason said. "Him? Humph. General, don't joke with me. He is just an idiot. I will send the Buddha Heart Sarira to the chief's room now." Ahau was very pleased with himself. Mason looked at the Buddha Heart Sarira. He did not understand why the chief would go through so much trouble to get this thing. However, he did not think too much about it, and told Ahau which room to go to. Mason then looked at the hostages on the deck and said, "Lock these women in warehouse number 4 and the Buddhist people in warehouse number 7. Wait for the chief's orders." Chapter 1431. The well-trained Marines were all Mason's trusted aides. They immediately detained more than 20 hostages in the warehouse at the back of the ship and sent several soldiers to guard the door. After the North Bio crew had completed their mission, they began to relax on the ship. Some of them rested, some of them had fun. At this time, no one noticed that a North Bio man in a South Korean military uniform walked alone to the back of the number 4 warehouse where the hostages were held. "Friend, what are you doing here?" "This is where the hostages are held. The restroom is in the front cabin door." A Marine guarding the door pointed and said. The North Bio man lifted his cap, revealing a sloppy and ordinary Asian man's face. Just when the 2 Marines at the door wondered if this guy didn't understand English, the man suddenly rushed forward and hit the throats of the 2 Marines with 2 knife-hand strikes. The brains of the 2 Marines went blank for a while, and then their throats were broken by the man's strong finger force, and they immediately stopped breathing. The man's movements were very neat, and after confirming that no one was attracted, he immediately opened the cabin door. In the dark warehouse, Zhang Ru, Huang Xiuyan, and a dozen other female hostages were huddled in the corner, shivering because of the cold. Seeing someone come in, they were shocked at first, and then Zhang Ru showed a look of shock and astonishment. "Old husband!" Jiang Xiaobai threw his cap away, and seeing that Zhang Ru was safe and sound, He finally breathed a sigh of relief and immediately rushed up to help his wife up. Don't say anything first. While there are not many Marines guarding behind, I will take you out of here. I just saw that there's a lifeboat behind that is enough to seat more than 20 people. Let's take advantage of the dark sky and escape quickly. Zhang Ru was so excited that tears rolled down her cheeks, and she kept choking. She never expected that Jiang Xiaobai would appear here, when her life was hanging by a thread, and when she was alone and helpless in a foreign country. The one who risked his life to go undercover among the enemies to save her turned out to be her husband, who she had always thought valued work more than herself. Zhang Ru was filled with great guilt and did not dare to ask more. She nodded vigorously and translated Chinese into Korean to tell Huang Xiuyin and others about the escape plan. Huang Xiuyin and the other female hostages were overjoyed, and they didn't care about the danger anymore. It would be great if there was a chance of survival. Jiang Xiaobai took the lead and walked outside to take a look. After confirming that no one was coming, he waved at the women. Zhang Ru and others followed closely behind, while Huang Xiuyin saw 2 dead Marine corpses and took a rifle from one of them. What are you doing? Hurry up and keep up. Jiang Xiaobai turned back and frowned. Huang Xiuyin smiled. I'm a police officer, and I know how to use a gun. I can fight with you. Jiang Xiaobai saw the police sign on Huang Xiuyin's shoulder and knew that she was a police officer, so he nodded. We have to hurry up. No one is patrolling here now. Jiang Xiaobai took the lead and rushed to the rear of the cabin. Bang, bang. 2 gunshots suddenly sounded from behind Jiang Xiaobai. Jiang Xiaobai groaned and suddenly slipped to the ground. His left calf and thigh were shot, and blood instantly dyed his pants red. Huang Xiuyin, what are you doing? Zhang Ru screamed and glared at Huang Xiuyin, who was firing the gun. Huang Xiuyin's face had become incomparably gloomy and strange. This 40-something-year-old policewoman was now like a witch from hell. What a good skill, good consciousness. It should be a special agent specially trained by Huaxia. Fortunately, the chief was smart enough to prevent someone from sneaking into the ship to save the hostages. I didn't expect that I would really wait for it, and it's even a friend of Huaxia. Huang Xiuyin sneered. At this moment, everyone looked at Huang Xiuyin in horror and understood. You are also from North Buyu. Jiang Xiaobai's face was covered in cold sweat, and it was extremely difficult for him to stand up. Huang Xiuyin proudly said, It's too late to know now. Do you think we can kill all the troops and police in the shortest time with more than 100 people? Without my reasonable array, how can we complete the task so easily without any damage? Zhang Ru ran to Jiang Xiaobai's side in grief and saw her husband's leg was bleeding and cried, Hubby, it's all my fault. If I didn't come to Korea willfully, you wouldn't. Jiang Xiaobai gritted his teeth and forced a smile. Xiaoru, don't talk nonsense. I don't blame you. This is fate. TSK, what a loving couple. Huang Xiuyin walked up to Jiang Xiaobai and pointed her gun at him. Tell me, do you have any accomplices on board? She kept Jiang Xiaobai alive to ask if he had any accomplices. Jiang Xiaobai sneered. Do you think I'll tell you? It doesn't matter if you don't say it. I'll take you to see our chief. She will naturally have a way to make you speak. At this time, because of the gunshots, many soldiers had already run over. Huang Xiuyin ordered people to lock the hostages back in and sent more people to guard them. Then, she personally escorted Jiang Xiaobai and Zhang Ru to see the chief. At this moment, in the most luxurious command room in the cabin, Ahau stood respectfully in front of the desk, his head lowered, his face full of anticipation. In front of him, sitting leisurely on the leather chair, was Abbess Yulian. Yulian held a special glass box in her hand, and the Buddha heart Sarira inside exuded a red-gold, auspicious luster. Very good, Ahau. You've done a very good job. Your acting skills are perfect. I was worried that you would be too soft-hearted to hit me, but you didn't disappoint me. Yulian still maintained her dignified appearance, but her tone was filled with coldness, without the slightest bit of mercy. Ahau said modestly, It's all because of the chief's teachings and leadership. Ahau only did a little bit of his strength and didn't dare to take credit. Hitting the chief deserves to die 10,000 times. Yu Yin nodded with satisfaction at this flattery. I'll leave the rest to Huang Xiuyan. Let her be a hero and bring those women and those monks back to Korea. This way, she should be able to rise by 2 levels and be of great use in the future. I've already hypnotized those monks. Later, bring those women here as well. I'll hypnotize them. Then, you can act with Huang Xiuyan. That way, I can return to the country perfectly, and the Buddha Heart Sarara will belong to us. Ahau understood and nodded with a sneaky smile. Just as he was about to say something, the door was pushed open and General Mason walked in. Chief, Deputy Minister Huang Xiuyan caught the spy who sneaked into the ship. Yu Yin narrowed her eyes and snorted coldly. There really is someone who is not afraid of death. Let her bring people in. Huang Xiuyan immediately brought Jiang Xiaobai and Zhang Ru in. Jiang Xiaobai had already lost a lot of blood and was thrown to the ground, unable to move. Zhang Ru had already cried into tears. However, when the two of them saw that Yu Yin was actually sitting in the leader's seat, they were still shocked to the point of suffocation. You are. Zhang Ru couldn't say anything. That's right. I'm the chief of the North Buyu. Yu Yin sneered. What a pity that such an interesting mystery has been solved by you. But there's no chance to walk out of here alive. Yu Yin slowly walked up to the couple. Chief, he is Hua Xia's man, Zhang Ru's husband. He should be Hua Xia's spy. Even if he isn't, he has an official background. I'm worried that he has an accomplice on the ship. I hope the chief can use his eyes to check and not kill him. Huang Xiuyan reported. You did a good job. Yu Yin praised, and her eyes fell on Jiang Xiaobai. If you don't want your wife to die in front of you, you'd better cooperate with me obediently and don't resist. Otherwise, your wife will be taken by the Marines on the ship and then dismembered by the sharks in the sea. You she-devil! Jiang Xiaobai roared hysterically. Zhang Ru gradually understood at this moment why Jiang Xiaobai had always been mysterious in the past. Her man turned out to have such an excellent ability. He was probably one of the secret agents in the National Legend. But now, I've become his burden, and I've even dragged him down with me to die here. At the thought of this, Zhang Ru was extremely sad, and she was too ashamed to look at Jiang Xiaobai's pale face. At this time, Yu Yin took advantage of Jiang Xiaobai's anger and instability and began to hypnotize him, gradually controlling his thoughts and making his eyes gradually become empty. Say, who are you? How did you get on the ship? Do you have any accomplices? A ghostly call lingered in Jiang Xiaobai's mind. Chapter 1432. Jiang Xiaobai was in a daze and instinctively wanted to resist the tide of thoughts, but it was difficult to control himself, and he finally lost himself. I'm Jiang Xiaobai, Deputy Section Chief of the Special Agent Section of the Ministry of State Security. I'm temporarily the Deputy Director of the West District of Zhonghai City. My wife, Xiaoru, angered a dangerous person. I was very worried about her, so I temporarily flew to Korea to see her. I was afraid that she wouldn't like to see me, so I secretly watched her. Today, Xiaoru was at Shaoxi Temple and happened to encounter the turmoil in North Bio. When I saw that Xiaoru was arrested, I sneaked into the North Bio. I want to wait until it's dark and take them away on a lifeboat. I'm acting alone. There's no one else. Jiang Xiaobai revealed all his background, confirming Zhang Ru's guess, but also letting Yu Yin and others breathe a sigh of relief. As long as it's not the Huaxiao Ministry of State Security looking for trouble, things will be much simpler. After all, although Korea is arrogant internationally, in terms of real strength, it is not even as good as a finger of the low-key Huaxiao Ministry of State Security. Zhang Ru burst into tears at this moment. Jiang Xiaobai must have sneaked over after hearing her phone call and foolishly protected her in the dark. Yu Yin noticed the detail and asked, "Who is the dangerous person you mentioned?" It's me." A somewhat stuffy man's voice suddenly came into the room from outside, sounding bored. Everyone in the room was shocked. How could someone just barge in without anyone knowing? Yu Yin's hypnosis was broken, and Jiang Xiaobai came back to his senses. He didn't know what happened, only seeing his wife Zhang Ru looking at him with deep love. Ahau, Mason, and Huang Xiuyin all picked up their guns, and their nerves were tense. "Who is it?" Yu Yin asked coldly. She felt like she was being teased. The door of the room was directly kicked open from the outside, and Yang Cheng, wearing only a pair of big underpants, bare upper body, with some seaweed on his skin and wet hair, swaggered in. Behind Yang Cheng, the corridor was filled with corpses. All of them had been pierced through the chest or had their necks broken. Yang Cheng was also holding a half-eaten fish in his hand. No one knew where he got it from, but he was gnawing on it. "Sorry, swimming was too boring. I was thirsty on the way here, so I caught a fish to drink some fish blood and eat some sashimi. I'm a little late." Yang Cheng mumbled to himself, then looked at Jiang Xiaobai, who was about to cry tears of joy on the ground, and grinned. "Hee, you actually treat me as a dangerous person. You deserve to suffer a little. Looks like it's not too late. You're pretty good, kid. I didn't even notice you sneaking in. What did you come to Korea? Oh, looks like you care about your wife." "Mr. Yang, young Master Yang." Jiang Xiaobai felt as if he had seen his own father, and he almost fainted from happiness. Previously, he was still wondering why Yang Cheng didn't come to deal with this matter when he was clearly participating in the conference. But he didn't expect him to appear at this time. He still roughly understood Yang Cheng's abilities, and his heart was at ease. "It's actually you, Even if you can deal with my hypnosis, you're finished this time. You're walking right into a trap." Yu Yin sneered. Yang Cheng threw the rest of the fish to the side and clicked his tongue. "This fish tastes okay, but there are a lot of bones." "Did you hear me?" Yu Yin said angrily. General Mason frowned and whispered to Yu Yin. "Chief, I think he said he swam and followed us. Listen to his bullshit. How can a person swim for more than 4 hours and still catch up with the yacht?" Yu Yin was furious. "What are you waiting for? Kill him." As soon as Ahao, Huang Xiuyin, and Mason heard the order, they immediately fired at Yang Cheng. Tu-tu-tu-tu-tu. Automatic rifles and pistols fired continuously, raising a burst of sparks on Yang Cheng's body. When Yang Cheng saw that there were a few holes in his pants, he immediately became furious. This was something that Lin Ruashi bought for him. Now that the woman was gone, even his pants were gone. With a big leap, he rushed in front of the three of them, stretched out his big hand, and pinched Ahao's cheek. With a speed as fast as lightning, Ahao couldn't dodge at all. At the same time that he was shocked that Yang Cheng couldn't kill him with bullets, his cheek had already been pinched by Yang Cheng. Kaka! As the cheekbones on both sides of the skull caved in, Ahao's head was directly crushed, and his vitality was cut off. Yang Cheng's other hand was not polite, and he slapped Huang Xiuyin's right cheek hard. Yang Cheng's slap did not make a loud sound, but he directly treated the woman's head as a tennis ball, and his hand slapped back. As soon as it hit, the head was smashed into pieces, and the brain and eyeballs and other organs scattered out in a bloody color. Yu Yin and Mason were scared witless when they saw a human weapon made of flesh and blood. Yang Cheng didn't care whether they were shocked or not, and kicked Mason's crotch with another leg. Bang! Mason's lower body burst into a bloody flower, and his whole body was violently split from the middle. Yang Cheng's foot kicked all the way to the inside of his lower abdomen, and then his whole body was kicked into the ceiling, and half of his body was inserted into it. The bloody and extremely violent killing method almost made Jiang Xiaobai faint, and Zhang Ru had already been scared unconscious by Huang Xiuyin's eyeball that rolled in front of her. Yu Yin swallowed her saliva, trembling as she retreated to the table, and kept shaking her head. Don't come over." At this time, the soldiers outside rushed in, and seeing the tragic scene, the soldiers were panicked and at a loss. Yang Cheng didn't care at all, and walked straight to Yu Yin and said, "Are you the leader of North Bio?" Yu Yin nodded stiffly. "You dare to fight with me for the Buddha's heart relic. You deserve to die 1,000 times. Give me the information of all the important people in North Bio, and I will leave your corpse intact." Yang Cheng was worried about South Korea, especially the remaining people around Jinxiu, so he tried to investigate as much as possible. "So you also want the relic, Humph? Aren't you afraid that after I die, all the bombs buried in Seoul will explode? Even if they can find some of them, They can't remove all of them in a short time. And then, fuck you. Yang Chung directly slapped Yu Lian in the face. So many people die in the world every day. Why do I care about those Koreans? They're not my parents. Cut the crap. Are you going to hand it over or not? Yu Lian was stunned. She looked at the three corpses and finally understood. The man in front of her was a butcher, and he didn't care about the lives of the tens of thousands of people in Seoul. Don't you guys like to count? I'll count to 3. If you don't hand it over, I'll pull off one of your fingers. If you don't, I'll pull off another. Yang Chung said lightly, and grabbed one of Yu Lian's hands and pulled off her thumb like a garlic. Yu Lian was on the verge of fainting from the pain and screamed. The soldiers had wanted to attack Yang Chung, but when they saw the scene inside, they didn't dare to touch Yang Chung. Seeing this, they all ran out. Yu Lian's eyes flashed with a final burst of fury, and she screamed loudly, "Master, save me!" When Yang Chung heard this, he couldn't help but be taken aback. Master? Without waiting for Yang Chung to think further, the group of soldiers who had escaped all let out wails. Yang Chung suddenly turned his head, and his gaze instantly froze. Those soldiers were actually bitten by a group of strange black mosquito-like poisonous insects. In the blink of an eye, they were gradually eaten away, and even their blood and qi were sucked dry, leaving behind a pile of white bones. Yu Lian's eyes revealed joy, while Jiang Xiaobai was drenched in cold sweat. What kind of strange scene was this? A bunch of good-for-nothings. I might as well feed my children instead of raising you. A voice that sounded somewhat familiar to Yang Chung came in from outside. Following that, a slightly short and fat monk wearing a monk's robe walked into the room. This gloomy monk was actually Master Zihao, who had been following behind Yu Lian, the director of the Buddhist Association. Zihao looked at Yang Chung disdainfully. Although I don't know where you came from, you're simply courting death by chasing after me so relentlessly. Yang Chung clicked his tongue in admiration. No wonder. I was just saying, this nun only has this much ability. How could the people of North Bu dare to have any ideas about Jane? So, you're her master. You're the real boss. You sure hit it well. Chapter 1433. Yang Chung was actually very surprised. Even if he didn't have his divine sense, he should have been able to sense the aura and pressure of someone with a high cultivation base. But he hadn't sensed anything special about this Zihao from the beginning. It was only when he displayed a cultivation base that was clearly higher than the soul formation stage that he noticed him. Could it be that this monk had some kind of treasure or technique to hide his strength? Otherwise, it would be very dangerous for him to move around outside of Huaxia. So what if you know? Your body is very extraordinary. This is the first time I've seen your spirit, blood, and qi. If I feed your flesh to my children, they will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. Zihao laughed sinisterly, like a ghost wailing or a wolf howling. You're a cultivator. Shouldn't you be in Hongming? Don't you know the risks of leaving Huaxia? Zihao said, I can kill you in the blink of an eye. I know what I'm doing. Yes, yes, master, come and save me. Yu Lian was so happy that she forgot the pain in her hand. Zihao said disdainfully, You useless thing. You've enjoyed enough all these years. I've given you so many nourishing things to eat. Your flesh just happens to have enough nutrients. Today, you and him will feed my children. As he spoke, a swarm of black poisonous insects emerged from behind Zihao and bit at Yang Chung. This swarm of black skeleton-like poisonous insects drowned Yang Chung and Yu Lian in an instant. Yang Chung snorted coldly. Since the other party was a cultivator above the soul formation stage, although he estimated that he was only at the fire tribulation stage, he could still use the law of space to defend himself. He directly threw the rain lotus to these poisonous insects, and then used spatial law to directly isolate these poisonous insects from space. Yu Lian screamed miserably in fright. In an instant, she was eaten by the poisonous insects and turned into a skeleton. Before she died, she looked at Zihao with hatred and confusion. She didn't understand why her master had given up on her. In fact, Zihao only wanted to focus on killing Yang Chung. Yang Cheng's body was a great treasure to him. As for a chess piece like Yu Lian, he could train her whenever he wanted. Huh. Could this be the legendary spatial laws of the gods? You're the main god. Zihao didn't pay attention to Yu Lian, instead staring blankly at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng used space maneuver to move Jiang Xiaobai and his wife to the deck of the ship. It was already a mess outside. The North Buyu soldiers were all thinking about escaping and had no time to care about them. On the other hand, Yang Cheng opened up a spatial isolation belt and teleported towards Zihao. He was prepared to take his life before he could react. But Zihao was prepared. Out of nowhere, he summoned a swarm of poisonous insects that were even larger than before. They were the size of a thumb and looked like the heads of flies. They spread out and enveloped Yang Cheng. When the poisonous bug touched Yang Cheng's spatial barrier, it actually penetrated through and directly bit Yang Cheng's body. Huh, you call yourself a god with this little ability? My meridian green moonglow fly can carry true essence and penetrate your spatial laws. Yang Cheng discovered that after his body was bitten, a large amount of sour and stinky venom was secreted from the meridian green moonglow fly's body, and then tried to pour the venom into his body through a thin straw. What a vicious spell! If it wasn't for Yang Cheng's abnormal physique, which was almost impenetrable to all poisons, this venom would probably be able to kill ordinary cultivators very quickly. Yang Cheng shook off a spatial fluctuation, shattering these poisonous insects, and then attacked Zihao. Zihao couldn't help but be surprised. You're actually not affected by my meridian green moonglow fly's venom? What kind of monster are you? Although his cultivation wasn't particularly outstanding, his poison was definitely not ordinary. Even if it was a cultivator 2 or 3 levels higher than him, if they were accidentally poisoned by his poisonous insects, even if they didn't die, they would at least lose half their lives. Insignificant skills. You want to win against me with just these stinky bugs? Zihao couldn't help but admit that Yang Chen's impenetrable body was his nemesis, causing him to clench his teeth in anger. Seeing Yang Cheng's continuous attacks, wave after wave of spatial laws, and his body constantly approaching him, Zihao continuously threw out a large black mass of colorful poisonous insects, wrapping Yang Cheng up into a ball, making it difficult for him to quickly break free. At this moment, the entire destroyer had already been riddled with holes by Yang Cheng's spatial laws, and the sound of explosions rang out continuously. Those soldiers were either dead or injured, and there were quite a few who had escaped into the sea. Under the curtain of night, the desolate sea breeze whistled. The two of them exchanged blows, but neither of them could do anything to the other. Zihao felt that if this went on, the gods would be attracted sooner or later, and he couldn't expose his identity. Looking at Yang Cheng's incomparably nourishing body, he could only give up for the time being. 1,000 spiders and 10,000 poisons. The true essence around Zihao's body flickered with a bewitching green light, and another huge rainbow-colored spider the size of 2 palms shot towards Yang Cheng. This time, Yang Cheng didn't bother to defend himself. In any case, the poison had no effect on him. However, the moment those spiders arrived in front of him, they all exploded one by one. Not good. I've fallen into a trap. Yang Cheng was infuriated. The poison cloud was secondary, but it was mixed with true essence energy, causing Yang Cheng to be sent flying dozens of meters away. This old monk will accept this Buddha heart, Sarira. We'll meet again someday. Zihao laughed complacently. His plan had succeeded. He snatched the Buddha heart Sarira box that had fallen to the deck and was about to fly away. Yang Cheng was extremely anxious. This guy was able to hide his aura and cultivation. If he let him escape, then he might never be able to find him again. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. It wasn't easy for him to find a treasure that had a great chance of restraining the primal chaos. Yang Chen's anger had already burned to his bones. His eyes emitted an ominous glint that was enough to silence the night, as if he was a ferocious ancient beast in the night. Damn you! It's rare for me to want something. Who did I provoke? All of you want to snatch it from me, and even a bald donkey like you dares to snatch it. How preposterous! All of you deserve to be cut into 1,000 pieces and sent to the 18th level of hell. After Yang Cheng's brain lost control for a moment, the cultivation that he hadn't dared to use in his dantian was finally activated. If he was crazy, then he was crazy. So what if he went berserk and slaughtered thousands of people? Whoever dares to stop me, I will destroy them. Boom! It was as if countless atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs had exploded in his dantian. The surging true essence turned into a turbulent wave of heaven and earth energy that seemed to drag the entire world into it. And the chaotic and fierce power of chaos also burst forth at this moment. Try to control Yang Cheng's dantian and fight fiercely with Yang Cheng's spirit. Evil creature, just you wait. Once I take that Buddha heart Sarira, I will subdue you. Yang Cheng relied on his anger at this moment to concentrate his high level of mental power. He temporarily suppressed the primal chaos and controlled the cultivation in his body. Where do you think you're going? Yang Cheng's figure traveled 1,000 miles in an instant. His speed far exceeded that of Master Zi Hao, who was running away proudly. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Zi Hao's originally joyful face turned pale and ashen. In the vast and boundless night sky, a huge hand condensed from the violent power of heaven and earth enveloped Zi Hao like Buddha's five-finger mountain. Boom! Zi Hao used all his skills. His true essence of the fire calamity could not fight back at all in front of Yang Cheng's void hand. It was instantly shattered. Zi Hao spat out a mouthful of blood. His skilled hand was captured. In midair, he looked at the man in front of him who exuded a terrifying aura like that of a demon king from hell. His heart trembled. You're also a cultivator? No. How is this possible? This cultivation. Don't tell me. Don't tell me you are at the peak of the weak water realm. Because the 9 heavenly thunder calamity had almost become a legend in the current cultivation world, Zi Hao subconsciously thought that this kind of cultivation could only be achieved by cultivators at the peak of the weak water realm. In fact, Yang Cheng now had his own original power of heaven and earth. After the chaos absorbed a large amount of power of the purple and blue divine thunder, he had truly reached the great perfection of the Tai Ching divine thunder realm. However, Yang Cheng could not fully control it. So although he had the cultivation, the power he displayed was almost the same as the peak of the weak water realm. If one day he could step into the Shang Qing divine thunder realm, then he could truly suppress all the cultivators of the weak water realm. At this moment, Yang Cheng did not have the time to pay attention to Zi Hao's surprise. He was about to lose control of the chaos. He hurriedly waved his hand in the void and snatched the box of the Buddha's heart relic. With a light flick of his finger, the box that was condensed from countless high-tech materials shattered. The Buddha's heart relic floated in front of Yang Cheng, emitting auspicious red and golden light. Feeling that the Buddha's heart relic was in front of him, the chaos in his body was particularly violent. It seemed to be worried that Yang Cheng would really use the power of the Buddha's heart relic. At this moment, because Yang Cheng had recovered his cultivation, and even his cultivation had been raised to an unprecedented height, his perception of everything had greatly improved. On the Buddha's heart Sarira, there was indeed a powerful energy that surprised Yang Cheng. It was a kind of pure and auspicious energy between heaven and earth. It was compassionate and compassionate, the energy of Buddhism tempered by the fire of karma. The more the chaos was afraid, the more useful this thing was. However, Yang Cheng suddenly thought of a problem. This thing, how to use it? Zi Hao in front of him was already so scared that he was about to collapse. Yang Cheng did not expect him to know how to use this thing. After thinking about it, time was running out. He might as well go all out and put it all into his body. With the idea of risking it all, Yang Cheng opened his mouth and directly swallowed the Buddha's heart relic. Chapter 1434. When the Buddha's heart entered his throat, Yang Cheng did not feel anything. He quickly swallowed it into his stomach and activated the endless resolve restoration scripture, digesting and absorbing it crazily. Yang Cheng was pleasantly surprised by what happened. The endless resolve restoration scripture used the power of heaven and earth as a medium to extract the Buddha heart, Sarira's vast and mighty power of Buddha. The faint reddish-gold pure power of Buddha merged into his limbs, bones, meridians, and meridians. The one who benefited the most was Yang Cheng's soul, which was forged by the Vajradharma of Buddhism. It was exceptionally strong and indestructible, and the chaos could no longer be easily shaken. When the energy field was injected with the peaceful power of Buddhism, the power of the chaos was suppressed layer by layer. Phew! Yang Cheng exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, which seemed to be mixed with a large amount of spiritual qi from heaven and earth. These monks were indeed not useless. He did not know which senior monk left this Buddha's heart Sarira, but it must have been an ancient deity with a high cultivation experience for it to have such great power. Yang Cheng felt extremely comfortable at this moment. His cultivation experience was calmed down, and he could control it freely. The chaos was no longer as aggressive as before, and it could harm his spirit. At this moment, Yang Cheng clenched his fist. The power of heaven and earth and the power of chaos were actually very similar. Therefore, he had successfully suppressed the chaos, and the power of chaos had also merged with his own power and was converted into the power of heaven and earth. The Tai Ching Heavenly Thunder Trial had reached the full circle. In the past, he thought that the Shang-Qing Heavenly Thunder Trial was an unattainable dream, but at this moment, he could faintly feel some mysterious changes. Although chaos still existed, it was like a dog that had been shackled. It could not affect his spirit and soul, so there was nothing for him to worry about. It was just a cultivation ATM that he could control at his will. He did not expect the endless resolve restoration scripture to have the ability to absorb and decompose spiritual treasures. Yang Cheng was even considering if he should search the world for other treasures with spiritual qi. Whether or not it was edible, he would swallow it. Now that his cultivation base was back, Yang Cheng thought of this joyous event. He raised his head to the sky and let out a long roar. After he had vented all the stress he had been feeling, Yang Cheng, who was brimming with confidence, looked at Wizard Zihao, who was under his control, in a mocking manner. Zihao was so scared that he almost peed his pants. What kind of people were these? He knew that the Buddha heart relic was a treasure, but he had always been thinking of ways to use schemes to obtain the relic without exposing himself before studying it. But this fellow came out halfway, snatched the relic, and ate it. That was the heart left behind by the great Buddha. Perhaps, among the immortals and Buddhas who had fallen in the ancient times, there wouldn't be a second one left behind such a treasure. But at this moment, Zihao couldn't think too much about it. All he could think about was whether or not he could survive. Resisting was impossible. The man in front of him could kill him with a single finger. They were on completely different levels. Seeing that Yang Cheng was looking at him strangely, Zihao thought that Yang Cheng was thinking about how to torture him, and he couldn't help but feel nervous. Great Immortal, your cultivation base is really earth-shattering. I am ignorant. Please let me live. Zihao began to cry and beg for mercy. Yang Cheng said calmly, "If you answer my questions honestly, I will consider letting you live. Please ask, Great Immortal." Zihao didn't dare to hide anything. He knew that the difference between his cultivation base and Yang Cheng's was too great. Lying would be easily detected, and it would be hard to deceive him. Yang Cheng thought about it and asked, "Who are you? Where are you from? How did you become the leader of North Buyu? And why did you plot to steal this Buddha heart relic? Also, what did you rely on to hide your cultivation base?" Great Immortal, my real Dharma name is Masterbug. Zihao is just a pseudonym. I was originally a Huang-class cultivator in Hongming. More than 100 years ago, as a Hongming emissary, this little monk traveled the land of China. One day, by chance, I discovered a magic treasure that had been passed down from ancient times in the Kunlun Mountains. This little monk called it the Blinding Leaf, because this magical weapon can hide one's cultivation base and aura and change one's appearance and body shape. Even those who are much more powerful than me can't detect it. That's why I wanted to escape from Hongming and go abroad. Following Masterbug's narration, Yang Chung had a rough idea of what he had experienced. Master Bug knew that there were a lot of treasures abroad that could be used for cultivation. It was much better than being suppressed by the higher-ups in Hongming. Therefore, Master Bug decided to go abroad. When he arrived in Korea, he met the former leader of North Buyu. Master Bug then thought of taking over the power of North Buyu and using the connections of North Buyu to help him build his own power and search for spiritual materials around the world. Master Bug spent more than 100 years developing North Buyu while hiding his identity. He had been using the puppet leader to do things for him, and he had been using all kinds of means to earn money by spiritual materials and rob spiritual materials. With the help of North Buyu, Master Bug, who was not very talented, entered the fire trial. However, it was very difficult for him to improve further. The Buddha Heart Relic was what Master Bug needed. Although he was good at spells, he also knew a lot about Buddhism. He wanted to study the Buddha Heart Relic to find an opportunity to break through. However, he didn't expect that Yang Chun would need the Buddha's Heart Sarira as well. Hundreds of years of hard work went to waste. After listening to Master Bug, Yang Chung asked, "So, you collected a lot of treasures in the past 100 years?" Master Bug immediately understood what Chen Xiaobei meant and nodded. "Yes. Great deity, I have a treasure vault. If you want my treasures, you can take them all. I just hope that you can spare my life." "Good. At least you're sensible enough. Other than your treasures, you'll have to hand over your blinding eyes to me as well. Also, give me the names of all the important people in North Bio. And I can't remember anything else at the moment. Let's talk about these first." Master Bug was about to cry. "What else do you want? I have even taken off my underwear to give it to you." However, since Yang Chung wanted money, Master Bug felt that he still had a way out. Although it was hard to hide the Buddha Heart Relic, as long as he behaved himself and did not use his cultivation, it should not be a big problem. For example, when he fought with Yang Chung, the spiritual qi in the sea was turbulent, but it did not attract any over-gods or cultivators. What Master Bug did not know was that the reason why no over-gods were attracted was because of Yang Cheng's presence. If Master Bug was alone, he might not be so lucky. Yang Chung first asked Master Bug to hand over the magic treasure that he was very curious about. The Buddha Heart Relic should be something similar to the missing artifact helmet of Pluto, Kanai. It was really a small leaf, but it was golden. Its whole body was shining with a brilliant golden luster. Although it did not have any attack power or defense power, and was considered a low-grade magic treasure, its function was magical. When Yang Chung carried the golden Buddha Heart Relic with him, or put in the space ring, it could actually hide his cultivation and aura. He could also adjust the cultivation level that he needed to show according to the different input of true inner force, and change his appearance and body shape. Yang Chen could not help but secretly laugh. This was a good treasure. Think about it. Others thought that you were only at the middle stage of weak water realm. Who would have thought that you were at the peak of Tai Ching heavenly thunder? Wouldn't you die with a grievance? Yang Chung did not want to be too loud, so he directly lowered his cultivation to the early stage of Tai Ching heavenly thunder tribulation, which was the level before he entered the 10,000 demon realm. Then, Yang Chung returned to the destroyer. Jiang Xiaobai's leg was slightly treated and the bullet was taken out. It quickly healed. Yang Chung injected a strand of heaven and earth energy into him, and Jiang Xiaobai was full of energy again. It's best not to remember too much about what happened tonight. I can save you and kill you. Take your wife and the others back to Korea. I still have things to do. Yang Chung did not care about Jiang Xiaobai's grateful look and let Master Bug lead the way to his treasure vault. After losing the Buddha Heart Relic, Master Bug returned to his original appearance. He was a skinny old monk with a wretched appearance, which matched his poisonous insect very well. After all, it took him more than 300 years to reach the fire tribulation, so his body was already relatively old. Master Bug's treasure vault was built on an uninhabited small mountain in Korea. This was actually Master Bug's private territory. In a small mountain, it was a treasure vault that was hollowed out. Great Immortal, all the spirit materials that I have collected over the years, including spirit herbs, spirit fruits, black iron, spirit spring water, and so on, are all here. A small portion of them have been used by me to cultivate and feed my children. The rest are all here, Master Bug explained as he walked all the way to the inside of the cave. He activated a thick bronze door with his Zhen Yuan and opened it. Chapter 1435. It was quite easy for a tribulation passing stage cultivator to open up a cave. The space inside the cave was quite large. As soon as Yang Cheng stepped into the cave, he felt a strong spiritual energy rushing towards him. There were all kinds of bottles and jars placed around him in an orderly manner. Most of them were made of jade and contained some spiritual spring water. Spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits were kept very well. Yang Cheng had only heard about many of them from Si Yao Chi-Ching. Some of them were rare materials from the Tushan Golden Elixir record, which could be used to refine powerful elixirs. On the other hand, a large amount of dark iron was placed in a corner. There was frost iron, flame iron, and even some rare dark iron like nether iron and crimson gold. They were resplendent and breathtaking, and they were materials that could be forged into high-grade magic treasures. If Master Chang's strength was not limited and he did not have a good cauldron to forge iron, he would have many magic weapons in his hands. However, there were many things that made Yang Cheng frown. In a corner, there were human skeletons piled up like a mountain. There were at least thousands of human skeletons. Judging from the shape of the skeletons, almost all of them were female. What's with those skeletons? Yang Cheng asked. At this moment, Yang Cheng's cultivation level had increased greatly. He did not deliberately hide it. The pressure he exerted was so great that Master Cheng felt that every word he said was like thunder striking his heart. Naturally, he did not dare to hide anything. Reporting to Great Immortal, "Those are the corpses of young women that I absorbed in order to refine my children." Yang Cheng frowned. He had heard that there were some Tao techniques passed down from ancient times that were evil and crooked. They were cultivated by the blood of living creatures. These devil cultivators were not the ones that Yang Cheng had met in the demon realm. Devil cultivators were reluctant to let go of their inner demons. Instead, they tempered their inner demons and walked the path of using violence against violence. That was why they became devil cultivators. On the other hand, the demonic Tao committed crimes against the heavens, harming others in order to achieve their own goals. They were similarly in defiance of the heavens. One was upright and brave, wild and unruly, while the other was sinister and vicious, committing all sorts of crimes. Master Bug had been in South Korea for over 100 years, and these girls must have been taken by him from time to time. Especially during the war, human lives were more valuable than grass. Not many people would know that he had taken dozens of girls at once. Unknowingly, there were already thousands of girls. Master Cheng was afraid that Yang Cheng would kill him because of this, so he immediately defended himself. Great Immortal, my goose spell was passed down from generation to generation in my sect. I also want to learn a superior spell. Unfortunately, this is not the ancient times. It is very rare to have a spell that can help one reach the level of deity stage. Seeing that I'm willing to hand over everything here to Great Immortal, I beg Great Immortal to let bygones be bygones and let me live. Yang Cheng said in a low voice, "Bring me the name list of the North Bio people." Master Bug nodded, and in a blink of an eye, a small booklet appeared in his hand, and he handed it to Yang Cheng. So that's a space ring in your hand. You have a lot of good stuff." Hearing this, Master Bug smiled bitterly. He took off the space ring and handed it to Yang Cheng. Originally, he wanted to hide the fact that there were many precious spiritual materials in the space ring. But this time, he had to hand it over to save his life. Yang Cheng used his divine sense to check the space ring. It was about the same size as the Sumeru ring he gave to Huilin. He could give it to other women. Of course, the rare spiritual materials in the space ring made Yang Cheng even more satisfied. With this loot, he could refine a lot of top-grade pills that Hong Meng and the hidden families did not even dare to dream of. He could use them to help his women improve their cultivation. Great Immortal, I've already given you everything. Can I leave now? I promise that I will never do anything evil again, and I will never appear in front of you again," Master Chung said, as if he was about to run away from the scene. Yang Chung played with the space ring and said with an evil smile, "You have to leave one more thing here." What is it? Master Bug searched his belongings. Only a string of sandalwood beads was worth some money, but it was just an ordinary item. Your life. After Yang Chung said these 3 words, Master Bug felt like he was going to collapse. Great Immortal, how can you go back on your words? You said that I can give you these. Haha, I'm not a great immortal, and I'm not a great hero. I only know that you are a heartless monk who has killed thousands of women. I will not let you live. Master Bug realized that he had fallen into Yang Cheng's trap. He was so scared that he wanted to run away. But Yang Chen wasn't going to give him a chance. He opened his hand, and a strong wave of heaven and earth energy gushed out. Like a huge silver dragon claw, it pinched Master Chang's entire body. Master Bug's body was surrounded by a dark mist. It was countless poisonous insects trying to fight back, trying to escape. However, Yang Chen's heaven and earth energy was now fused with the devouring attribute of chaos. He didn't reject anything and absorbed all the spiritual energy stored by these poisonous insects. I will not let go of you. Before Master Bug could finish his words, his body started to wither. The body of a cultivator at the crossing calamity stage was broken into pieces and turned into spiritual chi. Also, he had lost his chance to become a ghost. His 3 souls and 7 spirits had been devoured. His body and soul had been destroyed. In just a few seconds, Master Bug disappeared into thin air. A large amount of spiritual energy filled Yang Chen's dantian and turned into a silver-gray heaven and earth energy. Yang Chen was surprised. He did not know why the heaven and earth energy had merged with the chaotic devouring attribute. He absorbed Master Bug without thinking about it. In other words, he did not need to use the chaotic cauldron anymore. He could absorb the spiritual chi from heaven and earth. Also, because of the chaotic energy, he did not need to worry about his ethereal force being too chaotic. Chaotic energy was the ultimate form of chaos. Of course, this was also because Master Bug cultivation was much higher than Qin Fan's. If his opponent was very powerful, his ethereal force would be much more condensed. It would be much more difficult for him to absorb the ethereal force. Yang Chung was not arrogant enough to think that he could be invincible with this method. After killing Master Bug, Yang Chung carefully sorted out the wealth left behind by Master Bug. Master Bug had been controlling North Bio for more than 100 years. Therefore, most of the money that Master Bug earned had flowed into Chun Fan's pocket. Although he had used a lot of it, Master Bug had also saved a lot of it. According to Yang Cheng's preliminary calculation, there were about 100 billion US dollars. This did not include the gold that Master Bug had exchanged for and stored in the safes of banks all over the world. Yang Chen couldn't help but be overjoyed. He had just lost tens of billions of dollars by sending a large amount of oil to the Chinese government. Immediately, there was a sucker who replenished his coffers. This was what it meant by kindness begets kindness. As for the name list of North Bio, Yang Chung glanced at it. He did not find anyone who was close to Jinxiao. He thought that the Gong family would be the biggest suspect, but it seemed that he was overthinking. Yang Chung did not plan to touch the people on the name list. After they lost their leader, they would definitely fight among themselves. The only one who would be hurt would be the Korean government. Yang Chung was interested in the wealth of North Bio, but he was not interested in these Koreans. As far as the eye could see, the entire cave was filled with a dazzling array of exotic flowers and herbs, as well as the black iron spiritual spring. Yang Chen's interest was aroused, and he immediately began to sweep through them, putting these precious cultivation materials into his space ring. There were many things that Yang Chen knew, but there were also some strange things. Yang Chen could feel the abundant spiritual chi on them, but he did not know what they were. He planned to bring them back for Xiao Qi-Ching to identify. When Yang Chen saw a jade bottle made of superior jade, containing a crimson fruit that was like dripping blood, Yang Chen was stunned. Could this be? Yang Chen was stunned for a while. He hurriedly took out the Tushan Jinan record that Yu Shiwen gave him and looked at the fruit in the bottle. He could not help but suppress his ecstasy and immediately put it into the ring. There were many things that Yang Cheng did not have time to look at. He put them all away and then confirmed that there were no treasures in the cave. Yang Cheng then left. Flying into the sky, Yang Cheng exerted a violent heaven and earth power, like a heavy punch from top to bottom on the top of the mountain. Boom! The entire mountain was crushed into a pit, and the sea water quickly submerged the small island. It was really the power to move mountains and fill the sea. Yang Cheng smiled with satisfaction and returned to Seoul while humming a tune. Chapter 1436. The alarm in Seoul had been lifted, and a large number of bombs had been defused using various high-tech means. Celebrities and dignitaries were also safely protected, and most of them had returned home, not daring to step out. The wedding that the Park family originally planned to hold with the Kim family at Saoshi Temple had become a little difficult due to the unexpected situation. Inside the Park family's mansion, Park Cheon hung up the phone with a sour expression on his face after his call with the officials. Around Park Cheon were the Park family and the Kim family. From Park Cheon's expression, they knew that the officials would not allow the wedding to continue using Saoshi Temple as a venue. Lawyer Kim was very understanding. President, there's nothing we can do about it. After all, no one expected a terrorist attack from North Bio. I think we'll just have to postpone it another day. That's right, grandfather. Tomorrow is too rushed, and the red alert has just been issued. It might not bode well for us to hold the wedding. Jinxiu seized the opportunity and said excitedly. She could not wait for the wedding to be ruined. Kim Jip, on the other hand, looked calm as if he did not care about the wedding. Park Cheon saw the unconcealable joy on Jinxiu's face and thought of something else. He could not help but grit his teeth and frown. No way. The invitations have already been sent out. Besides the venue, everything else has been set up. Tomorrow is an auspicious day. We'll have to go ahead with the wedding. Many in the Park family had expected this and were not surprised. When Park Cheon wanted to do something, he was not one to be easily compromised by external forces. Jinxiu was aggrieved. She stomped her foot unwillingly. Grandfather, why are you in such a hurry to marry me off? I don't like Kim Jip. Shut up. How dare you do this in front of the Kim family? Park Cheon reprimanded angrily. Lawyer Kim chuckled. It's normal for Miss Jinxiu to dislike my blockhead son. President, you don't have to take it to heart. How many children of big families get married willingly? After all, feelings need to be nurtured slowly. Aren't you going to thank Lawyer Kim and Kim Jip for their understanding? When will you understand your responsibilities as the heir of the Park family? Park Cheon shook his head and sighed. Jinxiu gritted her teeth and glared at them. I hate you all. With that, Jinxiu ran back upstairs with a thud. Seeing that the young mistress had run up, Eunjong followed her worriedly, calling out, Young mistress, young mistress. Kim Jip, who had been silent all this while, glanced at the second floor with a strange look in his eyes. Dad, if we can't use the Tsaoshi Monastery, where should we use it? Do you need me to contact them? Asked his second daughter, Park Ji-yeon. After the incident with Park Jong-yoon, no one in the Park family dared to show any rebellious thoughts. Park Cheon was now as healthy as a pine tree, and the eldest granddaughter, Jinxiu, was almost certain to be the next successor of the Park family. They had no chance at all, so it was better for them to stay put and guard their own land, lest they were subjected to Park Cheon's rule. Send someone to contact all the guests and tell them that the wedding will be held at the Park family's Starry Moon Villa. Move all the wedding supplies over overnight. Make sure nothing goes wrong. Park Ji-yeon immediately agreed and rushed out with her husband to handle the matter. On the second floor, in Jinxiu's boudoir, the girl threw herself on the bed, slapping the bed sheets like a madwoman. She was so angry that she was on the verge of tears. Eunjong stood at the door with a helpless and conflicted expression. She knew that there was nothing she could do but watch as her mistress vented her anger. Suddenly, Jinxiu sat up, tidied her bangs, walked to the desk, and picked up the phone. Young mistress, who are you calling? Jinxiu said as she dialed the number. I want to ask if Brother Yang is back. I want him to take me away. In the lobby of the Hilton Hotel, Jane sat on the sofa, bored to death. She had been waiting for the whole afternoon. Halfway through, she took out her tablet and drew for a while. She even bumped into a few rich young men who tried to strike up a conversation, but they were all sent away. Jane wasn't too worried about whether Yang Chung was in danger or not. Perhaps it was because of the admiration she had for this man since she was young. Even if they became lovers, she still wouldn't worry too much. She had absolute faith in Yang Chung to overcome all difficulties and return safely. Finally, after Jane covered her mouth and yawned for the umpteenth time out of boredom, a familiar figure appeared in front of her. Yang Chung. Jane saw Yang Chung standing in front of her with a calm expression and a joyful expression on his face. She keenly sensed that something was different from before. She exclaimed in surprise, "Darling, your cultivation has recovered." Yang Chung laughed and hugged the woman tightly before kissing her delicate pink lips. "I've made a fortune this time, little Jane. As the saying goes, misfortune is a blessing in disguise. I think God still appreciates me." Yang Chung smiled proudly. Seeing her beloved man beaming like a naughty child who had tasted honey, Jane couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Tell me, what happened?" Jane was very curious. Yang Chung didn't hide anything, so he told her everything he had seen and encountered. Jane's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. She said, "That Zheo. Oh no, Master Bug, he's really good at hiding. He even fooled us. It's mainly because of his blindfold Dharma treasure. I can use it to easily change my cultivation from existing to non-existent, and it can also change my appearance and body shape. It's really uncanny workmanship," Yang Chung exclaimed. Just when Yang Chung was about to talk about the powerful spiritual materials he found, his phone rang. Yang Chung picked up and asked, "Jinxiu, what's up?" "Brother Yang, are you okay?" Jinxiu asked first. "Yes, of course I'm okay." Yang Chung smiled. This girl still cared about him. She even pretended to be indifferent to him during the day. "That's great. Brother Yang, can you take me away? I really don't want to marry Kim Jip. Grandpa wants me to continue marrying him. I don't want to marry him." Jinxiu's words were mixed with sobs. Yang Chung was silent for a while with a complicated expression. He took a deep breath and said, "Jinxiu, I'm just an outsider. Although I want to take care of you. Your grandpa is your family after all. Your grandpa won't harm you. He wants to leave everything to you. You should also think about him and try to understand Kim Jip. He's not a bad person. I don't want to hear it. Brother Yang, you're the same as them. You don't understand me at all. I hate you." Jinxiu angrily hung up the phone. Yang Chung shrugged. His originally excited mood was suppressed by Jinxiu's phone call. He was in a deep dilemma. You really won't regret it? Even if you feel that you shouldn't accept her feelings for you, you don't have to let her marry someone she doesn't like. Jane sighed and persuaded. Yang Chung touched his forehead with a headache. "To be honest, I don't know what kind of feelings Jinxiu has for me. Sometimes I think she's a sister. Sometimes I think she's still a child. Sometimes she suddenly becomes very mature. I can't guess what she's thinking. You also know that I can't give her a complete love, nor can I give her any status. If her feelings for me are just vague feelings because I'm indebted to her, then if I mess up her life now, wouldn't I be a sinner in her life? Besides, I'm carrying enough emotional debts. When Hui Lin was with me, Ruashi scolded me as a beast. I feel the same way. I can't imagine how guilty I'll feel if Jinxiu wants to stay by my side. In the end, you still care about Lin Ruashi's feelings. Even if her marriage with you only exists in name, you can't ignore her. It's very depressing." Jane pouted. Yang Chung smiled awkwardly. "When there are too many emotional debts, I naturally feel guilty. How can I make you my confidants? Trust me. Moreover, the enemies I may face in the future are all unfathomable. If Jinxiu is with me, she will inevitably encounter many dangers and hardships. I got the information from Master Chung. According to the Kim family, the Park family, the Kong family, and the other families that are close to Jinxiu, there are no North Bio people. Therefore, even though I know that she doesn't like Kim Jip now, I don't want to break up this marriage. At least this kind of life is stable for her." Jane certainly didn't want Yang Chung to have more and more women around him, so she didn't say much. She took the man's hand and wanted to go upstairs. She wanted to see what good things Yang Cheng had looted. But Yang Cheng said, "Little Jane, go back to your room first. I have to go back to Zhonghai and ask Qing'er to identify something. I'll be back after that." Chapter 1437. The item that Yang Cheng wanted to get Xiao Qiqing to appraise was naturally the blood-red fruit stored in the jade bottle. If this thing was the same as what he had in mind, then it would be extremely useful for Yang Cheng, who had recovered his cultivation base. It only took him a short while to return to Zhonghai from Seoul. He landed on the second floor of Xiao Qiqing's home. It was already late, and the woman was already asleep. However, Yang Cheng's heart was racing, and he couldn't help but knock on the glass door on the second floor. Xiao Qiqing woke up in a daze. She turned on the light and saw Yang Cheng grinning from ear to ear outside the window. She thought she was dreaming, and she rubbed her sleepy eyes to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. Barefooted, Xiao Qiqing got off the bed and opened the door. "Hubby, why are you here?" Then, Xiao Qiqing exclaimed in surprise, "You've recovered your cultivation base?" Yang Cheng nodded. He pulled the woman's hand to the bedside and told her about his trip to Seoul. In the end, he said, "I can recognize most of the spiritual materials I obtained. Many of them can be used to refine high-grade elixirs, and some can be used to refine high-grade artifacts. However, I don't know how to refine artifacts yet, so I wanted to start with elixirs first. Among the spiritual materials, I found this thing. I wasn't sure if it was the kind of fruit I had in mind, so I rushed back to have Qing appraise it." As Yang Cheng spoke, he took out the jade bottle and placed it in Xiao Qiqing's hand. Under the light, the jade bottle appeared very transparent, and one could vaguely see the red fruit inside. When the bottle was opened, one could immediately feel a wave of refreshing spiritual energy gushing out. When Xue Jiqing saw what was inside, her beautiful eyes did not even blink. She held her breath and stared at it for a while. Then, she sniffed the bottle after a long time. Xiao Qiqing took a deep breath, but she couldn't hide her joy. "Hubby, I never expected such a fruit to exist in this world. This must be the phoenix blood vermilion fruit. It really is the phoenix blood vermilion fruit." Although Yang Cheng had already guessed it, he still jumped up from the bed in shock when he heard Xiao Qiqing's confirmation. Legend has it that in the ancient times, there were dragons and phoenixes. The phoenixes were the real dragons, and they were the ancestors of the dragons in the demon realm. The phoenixes were immortal and could be reborn from the flames of the phoenix tree. The only thing that could make the phoenixes enter the cycle of reincarnation and suffer the pain of the 6 paths of reincarnation was when the phoenixes shed tears when they were touched by something. The phoenix's tears turned into phoenix blood, and when it touched the fruit that the phoenixes ate, the fruit would transform into a phoenix blood vermilion fruit, and from a spiritual fruit to a divine fruit, it is far superior to other spiritual materials. Xiao Qiqing said, "I don't know where Master Cheng found this phoenix blood vermilion fruit. I'm afraid he didn't even know what it was. He only knew that it was filled with spiritual energy, so he stored it in a jade bottle. One phoenix blood vermilion fruit contains enough spiritual energy to increase the cultivation of a cultivator above the soul-forming stage by more than 100 years. He must have wanted to know more about it before using it, but he didn't expect that he wouldn't have the chance to use it. We had to rely on the gods to come to Earth. Otherwise, Huaxia's cultivators would have found this treasure a long time ago. Why would it be left overseas for that monk to get his hands on it? Hee. This is a good thing for me. With this phoenix blood vermilion fruit, I can concoct the highest grade medicinal pill from the Tushan Golden Pill record, the Dragon Transformation Pill, to help you break through from the Hodian stage to the Xiantian stage." Yang Cheng was overjoyed. When he first saw the method to concoct the Dragon Transformation Pill, he was very tempted. After all, it would take too much time for his women to break through to the Xiantian stage with their own efforts. However, the Dragon Transformation Pill could forcefully open up the conception and governing vessels, strengthen the body, and step into the Xiantian stage. There would be no side effects, but it would strengthen the body. The only drawback was that during the breakthrough, the body would be cleansed of the meridians and marrow. Unfortunately, he had all the precious materials needed to concoct the dragon transformation pill, be it dragon bone, dragon blood, or something else. However, the phoenix blood vermilion fruit only existed in the legends. What? Hubby, you want to concoct the dragon transformation pill? Xiao Qi-Ching furrowed her brows. Yang Cheng asked curiously, "What's wrong, Qing-er? Is the dragon transformation pill not useful?" "How can that be? The dragon transformation pill is a legendary pill that has been lost in history. Its effects far exceed the highest grade medicinal pills. It could be said to be a heaven-defying immortal pill, but Xiao Qi-Ching sighed. I think, hubby, if you can consume the phoenix blood vermilion fruit and increase your cultivation by 200 years, you'll have a chance to break through the Tai Ching Heavenly Thunder and enter the Shang Qing Heavenly Thunder. At that time, even if Hong Meng and the hidden families are your enemies, they will have to consider who is stronger and who is weaker. But if you concoct the dragon transformation pill, although the sisters can break through to the Xiantian realm, the demigod realm is dependent on fate and comprehension. If they only reach the Xiantian realm, other than prolonging their lifespan, they will not be able to fight well and will not be able to help hubby." Upon hearing this, Yang Cheng's gaze softened. He caressed the woman's hair and said, "I know you are doing this for my own good. But what's the point of me becoming stronger and watching all of you grow old? I don't live just for myself. Furthermore, I was lucky enough to survive the Tai Ching Heavenly Thunder. With the power of the Heavenly Thunder, I'm afraid the Shang Qing Heavenly Thunder will be 10 or even 100 times stronger. Even if I can survive the Heavenly Thunder, I might not be able to survive it. It's better for me to accumulate my strength and prepare for the Heavenly Thunder." Xiao Qi-Ching had a knowing look on her face. She pouted and said, "Humph, this is what you said. I don't want to grow old. You have to think of a way to cure my 9 yin terminal meridians." Yang Cheng was speechless. "Why? Even the dragon transformation pill can't change the constitution of your 9 yin terminal meridians?" Xiao Qi-Ching smiled bitterly and said, "The dragon transformation pill can only be withstood by a physique at the peak of the acquired realm. I can't cultivate. If I eat the dragon transformation pill, I will only die after the spiritual energy surges into my body. If I want to cure my 9 yin terminal meridians, I will need a cultivation technique that can dispel the 9 yin cold chi or a treasure of extreme yang. However, I can't see either of these in the current cultivation world." Although she was full of theories and knowledge, she could only watch silently as the man she loved and her other sisters gradually entered one realm after another. Xiao Qi-Ching could only endure this misery and helplessness. Yang Cheng's heart was heavy as well. He gently hugged the woman in his arms and said, "Don't worry. You're still very young. Your husband is very lucky. Sooner or later, I will come across a treasure that can cure Qing-er." As Xiao Qi-Ching listened to Nuanyuan's words, tears welled up in the corner of her eyes. She hummed and nodded. After chatting with Xiao Qi-Ching for a while and making the woman smile again, Yang Cheng returned to Seoul. He still had to attend Jinxiu's wedding. This was also a farewell to the girl. He hoped that one day she would realize that an ordinary life was actually rare and precious. Xiao Qi-Ching watched as Yang Cheng left. She stood on the balcony of the second floor and watched the starry sky as the cold wind blew. Her smile gradually faded, leaving behind a sense of loneliness. The next day, Seoul Hilton Hotel. Yang Cheng held Jane's hand and walked out of the room. The two of them did not sleep last night and discussed the specific itinerary. When Jane learned that Yang Cheng had a way to quickly advance everyone to the innate realm, she was naturally excited. However, she also proposed to make a careful plan. It would not be good if someone coveted such a heaven-defying pill like the dragon transformation pill. It was better to move everyone to the Forgotten Kingdom and let Yang Cheng protect them while they broke through together. Therefore, almost in the middle of the night, Yang Cheng was talking to the women on the phone. He asked Xin, Li Jingjing, and Tang Wan to prepare to rush to the Mediterranean Sea. Lan Lan also followed them to stay on the island for a few days. Anyway, there were still a few days before kindergarten started. It would not delay the chubby little girl's favorite school. Finally, when it came to the problem of Lin Ruoshi, Yang Cheng had a headache. He always wanted to send good things to her, but he was afraid that Lin Ruoshi would not accept it at all and would be angry with him. The two entered the elevator. On the way down, they stopped in the middle, and a young couple came in. The wife's face was full of the sweetness of a little woman, holding her husband's arm tightly. But when the couple saw Yang Cheng and Jane in the elevator, their faces suddenly stiffened. Especially when they saw Yang Cheng, they laughed awkwardly. "Zhang, is this your husband?" Jane saw the secret between the couple at once, and her tone was very ambiguous. Chapter 1438. Zhang immediately nodded and replied, "Yes, Teacher Jian. His name is Jiang Xiaobai. TSK, TSK. Yang Cheng exclaimed solemnly. "So soon, it seems that Jiang Xiaobai has successfully recovered the lost land." As soon as this was said, Jiang Xiaobai and his wife became even more embarrassed. After returning to Seoul last night, the joy of surviving the disaster and the realization of the separation of life and death made the husband and wife finally let go of their past grievances and understood each other's sincerity. Almost for the entire second half of the night, the husband and wife were in the room. After Jiang Xiaobai's injury was healed by Yang Cheng, he was full of vigor, tormenting Zhang. It was as if he wanted to make up for the lack of sex in the past few days when they were separated. That was why Zhang was teased by Yang Cheng and Jane, who still had a face full of lust in the morning. However, the husband and wife were still grateful to Yang Cheng. If it weren't for Yang Cheng, they would have been buried in the sea. Naturally, what happened last night would not be told. When they went downstairs, Yang Cheng learned that the couple planned to go through Zhang's resignation procedures and then go back to Zhonghai together. Jiang Xiaobai was a little hesitant, but he still asked Yang Cheng to come to a corner alone and bowed to Yang Cheng very seriously. "You don't have to thank me. If I kill someone in Zhonghai in the future, don't give me any trouble." Yang Cheng laughed. Jiang Xiaobai grinned and said, "Young Master Yang, I am a citizen of the country. I thank you, but I will still distinguish between public and private affairs. Although you may not care about my gratitude, I still want to formally thank you." "Thank you, young Master Yang. You made me believe that as long as I really love my wife and always treat her well, she will definitely understand my intentions." Yang Cheng was slightly startled, then shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. It's just that both of you actually miss each other in your hearts." Jiang Xiaobai said, "Maybe, but if there are no feelings at all, how can we be husband and wife? No matter what, from now on, no matter how angry Xiaoru is at me and misunderstands me, I will always treat her well. No matter what she thinks, at least I have this determination." Yang Cheng looked at the confident Jiang Xiaobai and couldn't help but think of himself and Lin Ruoshi. "That's right. No matter what she thinks, it's my freedom to treat her well. I'm happy about it, so why should I think too much about it?" After sending off Jiang Xiaobai and his wife, Yang Cheng listened to Jane and went to a Giorgio Armani store and bought a suit to attend Jinchio's wedding. In order not to steal the bride's limelight, Jane chose a plain white BV dress, which matched well with Yang Cheng. After everything was settled, the two rushed to Xingyue Villa. It was a luxurious leisure villa built by Xingyue Group in Seoul. It covered a large area and was usually visited by the rich and powerful. All kinds of infrastructure could be used for the wedding without much preparation. Park Cheon was chatting with some important South Korean officials and businessmen. When he saw Yang Cheng and Jane, he immediately left those people and rushed to greet Yang Cheng. He was one of the most powerful figures in South Korea. Others might not know what happened at sea last night, but he had heard about it. It was said that when the South Korean army chased the two yachts, they also encountered a New Zealand warship. Abisu Lien, Hao, and the others were found on the ship, and they were all in a miserable state. Some of the arrested North Bio rebels revealed that only one person broke into the command room alone and completed all this. They were all scared out of their wits. Park Cheon thought of Yang Cheng's previous deeds and felt that even if it was not Yang Cheng's doing, Yang Cheng must have something to do with it. Such a person was a true powerhouse, So, of course, he had to try his best to build a good relationship with him. Mr. Yang, Dr. Jane, you're really late. I was worried that you wouldn't make it, Park Cheon said warmly. Of course we have to attend Jinxio's wedding. President, please go and entertain the other guests. We'll just walk around, said Yang Chung. Park Cheon looked displeased. Mr. Yang, do you think that a businessman like me who reeks of money is not worthy of your discerning eyes? How can the other guests here be compared with Mr. Yang's magical means? Yang Chung frowned slightly. This old man must have thought that he was the one who committed the crime at sea. He smiled non-committally. Park Cheon tried to probe further, but Yang Chung pretended to be confused. What a joke. If he admitted it, wouldn't it mean that he had taken the Buddha heart relic? Although he was not afraid of trouble, it was better to have less to worry about. Park Cheon could only smile dryly and walk away. After asking for the bride's room, Yang Chung and Jane went to meet the heroine of the day, Jinxio. When they arrived at a small white bungalow in the villa, they were stopped by the bodyguards outside. Eunjong ran out from inside and said with a guilty expression, I'm sorry, Mr. Yang. Miss Jane, she said she doesn't want to see you. Yang Cheng's warm welcome was met with a cold reception. Although he was prepared, he was still disappointed. However, he could not bring himself to be angry. He felt that he had let Jinxio down. The two returned to the lawn in the middle of the villa and sat in the front row, waiting for the wedding to begin. On the other side, Jinxio, who was dressed in a snow-white wedding gown, sat in front of the dressing mirror. She looked like an exquisite Barbie doll, allowing the maids to do the final touches for her. However, anyone could tell that Barbie's expression had always been unpleasant, especially her watery eyes, which were bloodshot from not having a good night's sleep. Eunjong walked in and reported, Miss, according to your instructions, Mr. Yang and the others were not allowed in. Jinxio responded faintly, but her heart was full of resentment. She had said that they were not allowed in, and they were not allowed in. Was she really that indifferent? With this in mind, Jinxio's heart felt as if it was soaked in ice water. The sense of defeat made her feel suffocated. Yang Chung, who had returned to his seat, felt uneasy. The thought of Jinxio getting married made his legs tremble uncontrollably. Jane saw the man's abnormality and shook her head slightly, but she did not point it out. Finally, with the sound of a gun salute, the wedding officially began. The lawn in the center of Star Moon Villa was decorated with a sea of pink and white flowers. An orchestra specially invited for Vienna played the wedding march with great momentum. The guests present, regardless of whether they liked or disliked the Park family, wore sincere expressions as they watched the newlyweds walk toward the stage where the priest stood. Yang Chung was a little muddle-headed. After Jane pulled him up from his seat, he saw Jinxio, who looked like Snow White, walking gracefully with her bridesmaids, and Park Cheon leading her to the front. Flower petals fluttered in the wind, and the air was filled with the sweet smell of joy. However, it seemed to be far away from Yang Chung. Yang Chung felt as if he was in a vacuum at that moment. He could not smell or hear anything. All he could see was Jinxio's gradually approaching figure. Jinxio wore a fine mesh veil that covered her delicate and youthful face. Even her expression could not be seen clearly. However, from the way she walked, one could see a trace of difficulty, as if she was taking one step at a time. Kim Jip was already waiting at the bottom of the stage. His expression was as cold as ever. He wore a white suit and stood tall and straight as if he was not the one getting married, and he was merely the groom's bodyguard. Finally, with Park Cheon's help, Jinxio arrived in front of Kim Jip. The girl's face tilted slightly in Yang Cheng's direction before turning back. Park Cheon wore a relieved expression as if he was thankful that nothing had happened along the way. He was ready to hand Jinxio's hand over to Kim Jip. However, something unexpected happened. Jinxio's legs suddenly gave way. Her entire body seemed to have been stripped of all her bones as she stumbled and fell to the ground. Whoa! The crowd was shocked and many people screamed. Park Cheon, Lawyer Kim, Kim Jip, and everyone else were dumbfounded. Jinxio! Yang Chung was the first to react. In a flash, he rushed to Jinxio's side like a ferocious tiger. He removed the girl's veil only to find that her lips were pale and her breathing was labored. Her pupils were convulsing in pain. Jinxiu, my child. What's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Park Cheon cried and threw himself to Jinxiu's side. His old face was filled with panic. Get out of the way. I'm a doctor. Jane squeezed through the crowd and rushed to Jinxiu's side. She lifted Jinxiu's eyelids and examined her carefully. Her eyes were cold. She's been poisoned. Chapter 1439. Poison? How is that possible? Park Cheon was furious. Jane could not be bothered with his doubts. She said to Yang Chung, Honey, take Jinxiu to a quiet place. Yang Chung could not care less. He carried Jinxiu in his arms and sprinted to the nearest villa. He was as fast as the wind so that Jinxiu, who was in his arms, would not feel unbearable. Jane quickly caught up with him. As soon as she entered the house, she said to Yang Chung, Based on my experience and knowledge, Jinxiu's symptoms are potassium cyanide poisoning. Potassium cyanide is heated in the air, absorbing water and carbon dioxide, and releasing a highly toxic gas, hydrocyanic acid. This will cause convulsions throughout the body, making it difficult to breathe. Paralysis of the circulatory system will lead to death. Yang Chung placed Jinxiu on the sofa. He watched as Jinxiu could not control her body at all. Her body kept convulsing, and his eyes gradually widened. He asked loudly, No matter what kind of poison it is, how do I remove it? Jane frowned and thought for a moment. She said, There's no time to use any medical measures. Honey, why don't you use the endless resolve restoration scripture in your elixirs to inject spiritual energy directly into Jinxiu's meridians? This will increase the activity of her cells. As long as her cells are strong enough, her body will be able to resume its metabolism and expel the poison. Yang Qing knew that there was no time to waste. He had done detoxification before, but he had never encountered such a tricky poison. So, he quickly took out a Longzhou elixir. He did not care that it was a precious top-grade elixir. As long as it could save Jinxiu's life, he would give it to her even if it was an immortal elixir. If the cultivators saw this, they would definitely curse Yang Chung for wasting God's gift. The Longzhou elixir could strengthen the body and speed up the refinement of the body with spiritual energy. It was perfect for this. After feeding the Longzhou pill to Jinxiu, Yang Chung circulated the endless resolve restoration scripture to help Jinxiu slowly dissolve the medicinal properties of the pill into her 8 extraordinary meridians, circulating it rapidly in her body. At this time, the people of the Park family and a large number of guests ran over. Simple walked to the door alone and blocked everyone. Guild leader, if you trust us, then don't go in and disturb them. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. At this moment, Jane was exuding the majesty of an ancient noble descendant. She was like a Western goddess, making many people feel awe and fear. No one dared to approach her. Park Cheon's wrinkled face trembled. He wanted to go in and see what was going on, but when he thought of Jane's brilliant medical skills and Yang Cheng's miraculous abilities, he gritted his teeth and said, All right, no one is allowed to go in. The Park family's bodyguards immediately sealed off the scene. Naturally, the guests would not ask for trouble. President, I suggest that you seal up the place where Jinxiu has been. Everyone here is a suspect. Once Jinxiu is out of danger, we must find the culprit, Jane said calmly. Park Cheon's mind was in a frenzy. He only remembered after hearing this and quickly ordered everyone to do it. Dr. Jane, Jinxiu is my life. Nothing can happen to her. I beg you and Mr. Yang to save her. As he spoke, Park Cheon was about to kneel before Jane, tears streaming down his face. Jane helped him up and comforted him. Don't worry. According to my observation, Jinxiu did not ingest a large amount of poison. That's why she did not die immediately. There's a high chance of recovery. Jane did not dare to be too confident. After all, a deadly poison like potassium cyanide was too crazy. In fact, if Yang Chung had not been there, she would not have been able to save Jinxiu. The person who poisoned Jinxiu was determined to kill Jinxiu. In fact, he wanted her dead for sure. Jane suddenly thought of something and said to Park Cheon, President, I need some tools and drugs to investigate the scene. I know someone from the Chemistry Research Institute here. Can you send someone to help me get the things? Park Cheon knew that Jane wanted to find out where the culprit had poisoned Jinxiu, so he agreed immediately. He wanted nothing more than to cut the culprit into pieces. As time passed, the originally festive wedding venue began to turn gloomy. The symphony orchestra stopped playing, and the gorgeously dressed waitresses stood on the grass in a daze, trembling in fear. The guests had not yet left. Although they all looked worried, they each had their own thoughts. Some of them had business relationships with the Park family, so they naturally hoped that the Park family would have a smooth sailing. Some of them were ambitious and secretly rejoiced that this could cause a huge blow to the Park family. No matter what, they were all waiting for news from Jinxiu. Beside the sofa in the living room of the bungalow, Yang Chung was fully focused on helping Jinxiu to recuperate and detoxify. After several rounds of treatment and detoxification, fine black blood seeped out of Jinxiu's body. In addition to the chemical toxins, the other toxins in her body were also expelled by Yang Chung. A foul smell filled the room. Yang Chung breathed a sigh of relief because Jinxiu's heart rate and breathing had begun to stabilize, and her face was rosy. A surge of heaven and earth force condensed and turned into a layer of water spiritual power. It washed away all the toxins on Jinxiu's body. This was a piece of cake for Yang Chung now. Jane, who was guarding the door, saw this scene and knew that there was no big problem. She patted her chest with relief and walked forward and said, "Fortunately, my husband is here. Otherwise, Jinxiu would have been doomed today." Yang Chung gently reached out and touched Jinxiu's warm and delicate cheeks and tidied up her messy hair. It was clearly her wedding day, but she had almost entered the netherworld. When he thought that someone dared to hurt the girl in front of him, Yang Cheng's eyes were like rolling thunderclouds and black wind covering the earth. "You just went out to investigate the scene, right?" Yang Cheng asked. "Well, I already know how the murderer poisoned, but I still can't find out who did it." Jane frowned. Yang Cheng sneered. "This kind of poisoning method can't be used for a long time. The murderer must be the people in the villa today. If we investigate one by one, we will naturally understand." When Yang Cheng and Jane walked out of the villa, many people immediately surrounded them. When he heard Yang Cheng say that Jinxiu was fine, Park Cheon was so happy that he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Yang Cheng in gratitude. "Mr. Yang, can I go in and see Jinxiu?" Park Cheon asked expectantly. "No," Yang Cheng flatly denied. "Before the murderer is found, everyone here is a suspect. I forbid anyone to come near this house. Everyone get lost." Under Yang Chen's order, many of them were disgruntled. "Who do you think you are? Why should we listen to you?" Some of the high-ranking Korean officials mocked. Yang Cheng's expression was gloomy. "If anyone wants to come near here, they will be the biggest suspect. You could try coming closer." His words sent chills down many people's spines. They did not know that this was a murderous aura, but many of the experienced bodyguards retreated in fear. Park Cheon knew that Yang Cheng was telling the truth. He did not want anything to happen to his granddaughter, so he took the lead and walked away. The guests did not want to be suspected, so they obediently retreated to the lawn. At this time, Jane held the wedding veil that had been sealed in a plastic bag and said to the crowd, "Everyone, please take a look. This is the murderer's tool." The murderer smeared potassium cyanide on the veil. When Miss Jinxiu's breath heated the veil, the potassium cyanide on it released a highly toxic hydrocyanic acid. I've asked around. Since the wedding dress was not strictly guarded, many guests had access to it from the moment it entered the villa to when it was delivered to the bride's room. It is not difficult to carry out the poisoning, so we need everyone's cooperation to find the murderer. Yang Cheng walked in front of the crowd and said loudly, "Before the investigation is clear, no one is allowed to leave this place. Who among you has a grudge against the Park family, whether in private or in public, present or past, step forward." What a joke. If you want to investigate, you should investigate the maids and makeup artists. Wouldn't they be the easiest targets? A guest said disdainfully. "You don't have to say so much." Of course, they will be investigated. But the maids and makeup artists are the biggest suspects. Would they poison the wedding dress? Yang Chung retorted. The guest was at a loss for words. His face flushed red. He said, "If you want to talk about grudges, the Kongs have the biggest grudge against the Park family. Who in Seoul doesn't know that?" Kung Gai Chung and Kung Woo glared at the guest. If they were not from a traditional Korean family, they would have skinned him alive. Unfortunately, they could not do so. The Kongs disdained to do such underhanded things. "Miss Jinxiu may have rejected my son, but my father and President Park Cheon are sworn friends. Our two families have a close relationship," Kung Gai Chung said solemnly. "TSK, who would believe you? Who doesn't know how much you wanted President Park Cheon to fall ill? You pressure the Park family to let Miss Jinxiu marry Kung Woo. Do you think we don't know?" Another guest mocked. At that moment, the crowd only wanted to distance themselves from this matter. They did not want to be implicated. They wanted to take advantage of the fact that Park Cheon was burning with rage to attack the other families. Kung Gai Chung and his son knew that the crowd wanted to bully the Kongs, but because of the past, they were the biggest suspects. They were furious. "We said we didn't do it, so we didn't do it. Father, don't waste your breath on them. We'll walk out of here today. Let's see who dares to stop us," Kung Woo said coldly. He did not forget to glance at Yang Chung with disdain. Kung Gai Chung laughed arrogantly. "That's right. You're just a bunch of mad dogs who bite people to protect themselves. Do you think the Kongs are afraid of you?" He pointed at Yang Chung and sneered. "You're just a Hua-Xia citizen. What right do you have to meddle in the affairs of the Republic of Korea? If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll have the police arrest you." Chapter 1440. Gong Jaichung's words reminded the crowd that they were all members of the upper-class society in Korea. Many of them were Asian tycoons and dignitaries. Why should they listen to Yang Cheng's words? Even if they came to the Park family's wedding, it was only for Park Cheon's sake. The Gong father and son were proud of themselves as they pushed the guests away and swaggered toward the Manor's parking lot. The guests felt a little embarrassed. They actually forgot about this just now and got scared by Yang Chun. Instead, they were treated as the hero of the Republic of Korea by Gong Jaichung. They all stared at Yang Chun in disdain. Park Cheon also noticed this. Everyone present was either rich or respectable. Even he had to give some face to some of them. They were not to be trifled with. How could it be easy to keep them locked up like prisoners and subject them to inspection? As the crowd dispersed, many people began to show off and deliberately discussed where they should go for a drink or two. Their goal was to ridicule Yang Chung. Yang Chung did not seem to be angry. He silently followed Gong Jaichung and Gong Woo with steady footsteps. The Gong father and son saw Yang Chung catch up with them and turned to look at him with a contemptuous smile. "What? You want to keep us here? Don't you know that the Republic of Korea is a country ruled by law? You'll have to go to the police for imprisoning citizens." Yang Chung ignored them and walked straight to the edge of the lawn where a vintage wedding car decorated with a large number of flowers and ribbons stood. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Yang Cheng's two hands, one above and one below, clasped the front cover of the car. What was he trying to do? Move the car? An absurd thought flashed through the crowd's mind. However, in the next second, everyone's eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. Yang Chung seemed to have lifted a huge piece of foam from the ground. The wedding car squeaked as it was lifted over Yang Cheng's head. The 2-ton iron lump was as light as a feather in Yang Cheng's hands. All of this was nothing in the eyes of Yang Chung and Jane, but in the eyes of the guests, they were like monsters. The Kong father and son finally came back to their senses, their mouths agape in shock as they retreated a few steps. "You, what are you doing?" Gong Jaichung asked with a trembling voice. Yang Cheng's face was expressionless. He lifted the car with both hands and took light steps. Just like that, he arrived in front of Gong Jaichung. Because Gong Jaichung was too shocked, he didn't realize that the car had shrouded him like a huge shadow. Roar! A deep and loud sound, like a muffled thunder, smashed everyone's eyes until they almost popped out. Yang Chung actually used the old car as a big iron rod and ruthlessly smashed Gong Jaichung's body. Gong Jaichung's head was immediately smashed into a bloody pulp. Red and white matter splattered everywhere. His body from the neck down was also like a pile of rotten meat. His bones pierced through his body, causing his body to shatter into pieces. Bang! 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 Yang Chung completely ignored the screams of a large number of female guests and men present, and didn't care that those people fainted because of the horrible, bloody scene. It was as if Yang Chung wanted to use Gong Jicheng's body as a piece of pork, and he wanted to use the car as a kitchen knife, chopping it up hard. Gong Jicheng didn't even know how he died. His body had already been smashed into a pile of meat by Yang Chung coldly. His bones were twisted and broken. Blood and intestines were scattered on the grass more than 10 meters away, like a bloody chrysanthemum blooming on the grass. Yang Cheng's body was dyed red and stinky, and Yang Cheng's face was also dregs of human flesh. When Yang Cheng threw the old car that had been smashed out of shape more than 10 meters away, as if it was nothing, the scene was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Everyone's breathing had become extremely difficult. Jane was the only one who was unperturbed by the scene. She had seen too many times in the past how inhuman Yang Cheng's slaughter was. Yang Cheng naturally wiped the flesh and blood off his face, licked his scarlet lips, and swept his disdainful gaze over everyone present. Even the usually calm Park Cheon, Kim Jip, and the others, who had always maintained a straight face, were showing signs of hysterical fear. Yang Cheng, on the other hand, was a little distressed. He wasn't pretending to be deep in thought, but his brows were really knitted together. He sighed and said in a deep voice, "I asked you to stay for inspection. Wouldn't it be fine if you just listened to me? Why did you make me angry? The Republic of Korea, the Republic of Korea. Did I ask about your nationality? I didn't have to find a murderer. I could just kill all of you and be done with it, but I endured it. But many of you look like you really want to die." The faces of the guests who had spoken earlier turned pale with fright. One of them even wet his pants on the spot. Yang Cheng's brutality had silenced them. Everyone felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave, afraid that disaster would befall them. Yang Cheng glanced at Gong Wu, who was the closest to him. Gong Wu no longer had his usual cool demeanor. He was so scared that he didn't even dare to cry. His nostrils were filled with the scent of his father's blood, and he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. "Let's start with you." Yang Cheng lifted Gong Wu up and threw him into the middle of the field. He ordered Jane to instruct the Park family's bodyguards to search him. The bodyguards dared not disobey Park Cheon's order. They went up to search Gong Wu carefully without waiting for Park Cheon's order. After searching him from head to toe, Jane ran some chemical reagents on his clothes and found nothing unusual. She nodded at Yang Cheng. "There's nothing suspicious on him." Yang Cheng beckoned to the others present. "Those who have a grudge against the Park family, come out now. Those who dare to hide from me will end up like that pervert." This time, the guests had learned their lesson. This guy was a pure lunatic, but they had to think of a way to punish him after they got out of here. For now, they had to cooperate with him. Thus, one after another, dozens of guests who had a grudge against the Park family came out reluctantly. Jane brought people to investigate them one by one and found no signs of foul play. That's strange. Judging from the time and technique, it's impossible for the murderer to poison the thin veil in time. There must be a small amount of powder drifting on his body. Could it really be the maids and makeup artists who poisoned him? Yang Cheng said indifferently, "Everyone is here. I've covered the entire manor with my divine sense. No one can escape. Take your time. If there's no evidence on anyone, we'll search the entire manor." Jane nodded and asked Park Cheon to summon the maids and makeup artists who served Jinxiu. As Jane searched them one by one, there was no trace of foul play on them. The matter became even more confusing. At that moment, Yang Cheng looked at Zhang, who was standing beside Park Cheon, and said, "Zhang, you're also Jinxiu's person. You have to be examined as well." Park Cheon, Kim Jip, and the others looked at Zhang in astonishment. They did not believe that Zhang would be a suspect. After all, she was the maid who had always been on Jinxiu's side. Zhang pursed her lips and stepped forward to let Jane examine her. Jane put on a pair of rubber gloves, and after searching her body, she used a makeshift potion to stick some dust on her body for the test. When the colorless potion suddenly turned pink, Jane's eyes lit up. It's potassium cyanide. Unjong, it's really you? Everyone looked at Unjong in disbelief. The latter seemed to have expected this. She bit her red lips and lowered her head. At that moment, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. After all, they had found the culprit and cleared their suspicions. How? How could it be Unjong? Park Cheon was also shocked. He staggered a few steps back and roared in anger. Vile spawn, what has the Park family done to you? Why did you poison my Jinxiu? Around Park Cheon, the other Park family members were also filled with righteous indignation. Lawyer Kim and Kim Jip furrowed their brows. Kim Jip clenched his fists as if he was about to explode. Yang Chun calmed down at that moment. He looked at Unjong, waiting to hear what she had to say. Unjong raised her head with tearful eyes and smiled bitterly. President, I'm sorry, but I've been waiting for this day for too long. What? Park Cheon thought he had heard wrongly. Unjong took a deep breath, and a trace of resentment surfaced on her face. President, you're a man with a short memory. I'm afraid you've forgotten that more than 20 years ago, you once met a woman called Hu Jiwan. Park Cheon sucked in a breath of cold air. His body went limp, and he almost fell to the ground. He pointed a trembling finger at Unjong. You're. Chapter 1441. That's right, she's my mother. My surname is Hu. My name is Hu Unjong. No, that's impossible. She said she's already. Park Cheon was a loss for words as he recalled the events of the past. His face turned purple. Unjong sneered. Why? You can't continue? Then I'll help you. Back then, my mother was your assistant, but you lusted after her beauty and forced her to marry you. She became pregnant with me, but in the end, my mother had to abort me for the sake of her reputation. My mother couldn't bear it and lied to you that she had already aborted the child. She wanted to wait for my belly to grow bigger and beg you to accept me as your daughter. But at that time, in order to quell the rumors in the company, you gave my mother a sum of money and told her to scram far away from you, never wanting to see my mother again. Do you know that after my mother gave birth to me, she never spent a day with a smile? Her heart was filled with hatred for you for abandoning her. She hated me as well. She beat me, scolded me, asked me to kneel for no reason, and call me a bastard. She only told me everything when she was in the late stages of liver cancer due to excessive drinking. She cried and said that she was sorry, but I don't blame her. I only hate you. President Park Cheon. Yunjong's cries filled the audience with a sense of heartache. The complex emotions that were suppressed in the depths of a woman's heart were chilling to the core. Her biological father was the enemy she hated the most. Park Cheon finally couldn't take it anymore and slumped to the ground. It was as if he had aged more than 10 years in an instant. No one knew if he was ashamed of what he had done in the past. So you entered this house to avenge your mother? Park Cheon raised his head and looked at Unjong, who was dressed in a maid's attire. She was his own flesh and blood. According to seniority, Unjong was his youngest daughter. This caused Park Cheon and the others behind her to react differently. They did not expect this young maid to be his biological sister from the same mother and father. That's right, I practiced Taekwondo and learned the etiquette of the big families so that I could enter the core circle of the Park family. It was all for this day, to tear off your pretentious disguise. I'm going to make your most beloved granddaughter, your chosen successor, fall down in the most beautiful wedding in front of you. I will make you pay for what you did all those years ago. Unyung screamed, tears streaming down her face. Park Cheon felt as if his heart had been struck by a hammer. His breathing quickened. Child, Unyung, I'm sorry. To everyone's surprise, Park Cheon confessed to everything Unyung had said without any intention of concealing anything. Park Cheon sobbed, his eyes filled with pity as he looked at Unjong. All these years, I've been dreaming of repentance for the evil I've done, but God won't give me a chance to redeem myself. I'm too ashamed to see your mother because I'm afraid she'll hate me. I'm old. I know I was wrong. Child, can you give me a chance? If I knew you were my daughter, I would definitely make it up to you 10 times, 100 times. Unyung, my child, can you forgive me, your father? Park Cheon was deeply in love. The guilt he felt for Hu Juan had transformed into fatherly love for Eun-young. He realized that Eun-young was so outstanding, so similar to her mother, but he had not noticed it for so many years. Of course, even if Eun-young was ordinary, Park Cheon had already treated her like his own daughter. However, Eun-young's eyes were still filled with indifference and disdain. Don't you think it's ridiculous? I poisoned your granddaughter. I hate you to the core, but you want me to acknowledge a traitor as my father? Park Cheon suddenly remembered this matter. He jumped up anxiously and ran to Yang Chung, pleading, Mr. Yang, please let Eun-young go. She only hates me too much. She doesn't hate Jinxiu. Since Jinxiu is safe, I'll take good care of her from now on. This won't happen again. Eun-young is my daughter. I owe her too much. I can't let her be hurt. Eun-young's pupils contracted. She held back her tears and refused. I don't need your hypocrisy. If Mr. Yang wants to kill me, I'm more than happy. At least I won't have to see your hypocritical face again. I deserve it. Eun-young, don't be silly. Park Cheon continued to plead with Yang Chung. Mr. Yang, I'll agree to whatever you want, but please don't hurt Eun-young. Yang Chung pushed Park Cheon away and frowned. I don't care if she's your daughter or not. She has the audacity to hurt Jinxiu, so she must die. Everyone was shocked. Yang Chung did not take Park Cheon seriously at all. Eun-young was already in such a pitiful state, while Jinxiu was fine, but he still wanted to kill Eun-young on the spot. Speaking of which, Yang Chung seemed to have a heart of stone, cruel and ruthless, but it was all for Jinxiu's sake. Park Cheon was pushed away, but he still lunged forward and grabbed Yang Cheng's arm, crying, I'm willing to die in Eun-young's place. Mr. Yang, I know none of us can stop you. Why don't you just kill me, this crazy old bastard? I've lived long enough, but Eun-young's life has just begun. At that moment, Park Cheon no longer looked like an Asian tycoon. He looked like a pitiful father who would do anything for his daughter. Eun-young raised her head to stop the tears from rolling down her cheeks. Yang Chung was getting impatient. He shook Park Cheon off again and asked Jane to hold him back. You're so annoying. I'm going to kill your daughter. What does that have to do with an old man like you? Yang Chung cursed and walked toward Eun-young. Eun-young closed her eyes and waited for her death. She had seen Yang Cheng's capabilities and knew that she could not resist Yang Chung. You can't kill her. A cold voice sounded in front of Yang Chung. Kim Jip suddenly stood in front of Eun-young, his cold eyes staring straight at Yang Chung like a cheetah. You? Yang Chung sneered. You think you can stop me? Kim Jip shook his head. I can't. Then why are you here to die? Kim Jip said calmly. I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to tell you the truth. The truth? Yang Chung smiled faintly. No. Eun-young frantically pulled Kim Jip from behind and cried, Get out of my way. He wants to kill me. Why are you here? Kim Jip hugged Eun-young tightly in his arms and shouted, I'm the one who poisoned Su Jinxiu. Eun-young is innocent. His voice was like a bell that silenced the crowd. Eun-young buried her head in Kim Jip's arms and cried. She slapped Kim Jip's chest. Why are you doing this? I'm the one who deserves to die. Why are you doing this? Sob sob. Everyone present seemed to have sensed something, but their minds were already in a mess. Lawyer Kim's face turned pale when he heard his son's words. He did not know what to say. His heart was filled with rage, and he fainted. Yang Chung, you're not someone who kills the innocent. I believe you. Let me tell you now. The person I love is Hu Eun-young. She is the future of my life. For her, I can kill Su Jinxiu and even the president. I know it's unfair to Su Jinxiu, but I have no other choice. For Eun-young, I can become a madman, a bastard. But the test results show that Eun-young has poison on her body. Yang Chung said lightly. Kim Jip laughed. Don't you think it's ridiculous? If I were the one who poisoned her, I would have changed my clothes after doing it. I wouldn't have left such obvious evidence. I didn't notice it before, but Eun-jong must have seen my bottle of poisonous powder when she was helping me tidy up the groom's clothes, so she purposely let some of it on her. I didn't know that the bottle of poisonous powder had already been flushed down the drain by me. After saying that, Kim Jip gently stroked Eun-young's hair. Silly woman, why did you do such a thing? This is my choice. I should be the one to die, but I'm very happy. I thought you didn't love me sincerely, but now it seems that I've misunderstood you. I'm so happy that you're willing to atone for my sins. Eun shook her head forcefully. I don't want you to die. I don't want. This pair of pitiful lovers caused many people to sigh in their hearts, and their fear also lessened. But at this moment, Yang Cheng's eyebrows relaxed. He revealed a mysterious smile and said to Jane, who was pursing her lips and smiling, Dear, what do you think of my acting? This year's Oscar should be mine, right? Chapter 1442. Jane hugged Yang Cheng and tiptoed to give her lover a peck on the lips. She smiled sweetly. Of course, it's amazing. Your acting skills are superb. Hee, it's all thanks to little Jane's script. Yang Cheng complimented. It's all thanks to the good material you gave me. I was able to write a script like this with these clues. Jane flattered. The contrast between the two men's expressions caused everyone present to be confused and dumbfounded. Jane sighed and poured the pink liquid in the test tube. She shook her head and said, You guys didn't learn chemistry well in middle school. How can potassium cyanide be detected so easily? Sigh. Park Cheon, Kim Jip, and Eun were all stunned. Could this be? Park Cheon wiped the tears off his face and asked incredulously, Mr. Yang, Dr. Jane, you guys planned everything on purpose. Eun covered her mouth and exclaimed, So you guys didn't find anything at all? Of course, it's not that easy to test the potassium cyanide powder. I just didn't expect Miss Eun to really spill some of the powder on herself. I wanted to check Kim Jip last, but the script went very smoothly. Jane winked with a smug smile. Kim Jip asked in a daze, You knew that I was the one who poisoned him. I didn't know. It was just a guess. Of course, I also had my own suspicions. Eun. Yang Cheng continued. I didn't just find out that there was something fishy going on between the two of you. Maybe you thought you were hiding it well, but you still let the cat out of the bag. Last year, when I stayed with the Park family, old man Park Cheon said he wanted you to marry Jinxiu. You weren't interested in Jinxiu at all. Jinxiu didn't even look you in the eye. But when Jinxiu went upstairs, you looked up the stairs. At first, I thought it was strange that you were looking at Jinxiu again, but in fact, your eyes were focused on Yunjing's back. After that, I noticed that you were looking at Yunjing's back several times. As for Eun, when Kim Jip was protecting Park Cheon in the hospital, the first thing that popped out of her mouth when she thought of the hospital was not the president's condition, but whether Kim Jip was in danger. As a servant of the Park family, your first concern is not the safety of your master, but the safety of a bodyguard. Furthermore, you didn't call a young Master Kim, but Kim Jip. That's why I took note of it. Last time, when they were discussing marriage, Kim Jip said that the tea was too hot for no reason and asked Eun Jing to clean it up. It was clear that he was intentionally throwing a tantrum at Eun Jing. I'm afraid you're angry at Eun Jing. When she heard the news that you're going to marry Jinxiu, she didn't care at all and just stayed there without any reaction. After all, that kind of action is very out of character for you. After observing this, I made a guess and sent someone to secretly investigate Yunjing's background information. Yang Cheng ignored everyone's dumbfounded expression and smiled casually. Don't doubt my intelligence gathering ability. It's easy for me to find out Yunjing's background information. I've also known about you being Park Cheon's illegitimate daughter for a long time. However, it wasn't until today, when Jinxiu was poisoned, that I connected all the dots. Everyone, including the astute Park Cheon, looked at Yang Cheng with utmost respect. They didn't expect this seemingly reckless and cruel young man to be so shrewd that he was able to capture even the smallest details. In fact, this had something to do with Yang Cheng's career as an assassin. Observing everything around him was a compulsory course. After explaining these details and information to Jean, the two discussed the series of scripts to lure the snake out of its hole. Yang Chun continued smoothly. When I found out that Eun was the illegitimate daughter abandoned by old man Park Cheon, I was puzzled. Eun was supposed to enter the Park clan for revenge, but why did she not do anything for so many years? The last time there was an enemy invasion, Eun protected the Park family with her life and even risked her life to protect Jinxiu. It didn't seem like she was here for revenge. But when you think about Kim Jip, it's not difficult to understand. Kim Jip is the old man's bodyguard, so he must have his own abilities. I'm afraid that Jing was trying to harm Park Cheon back then, and Kim Jip already found out. As Yang Chung spoke, Kim Jip and Yunjing's expressions kept changing, but they both agreed tacitly. The two had indeed developed feelings for each other because of their private struggle. Kim Jip did not tell Park Cheon about Yunjing's identity, and Jing listened to him and did not harm the Park family. A large part of the reason Jing continued to stay in the Park family was because she could see Kim Jip often. Kim Jip was the same. Otherwise, as the young master of the Kim family, no matter how close he was to Park Cheon, he would not be a bodyguard. Of the two, one was under pressure from the family and had to be tied to the Park family. She was a beast without freedom. The other was burdened with deep hatred and pain. She could not recognize her loved ones even when she met them. She was a lonely and sad plum blossom. Due to various reasons, they felt each other's preciousness and fell deeper and deeper in love. Finally, they reached this point where they could do anything for each other. It was a kind of romance, but also a kind of sadness. Kim Jip looked deeply into Yang Cheng's eyes. I admire you, but why did you let me marry Jinxiu even though you knew all this? You know it's impossible for me to fall in love with her. At this point, Yang Cheng's face showed a trace of helplessness, and he remained silent. Jane answered on his behalf. Because Yang Cheng believes in your character? Character? Kim Jip frowned. That's right. Jane explained. He thinks that you are a trustworthy man because you have your true nature. You were willing to hide the truth from President Park for Yunjing's sake. This shows that, deep down, you are different from those who only care about the family's interests. You are a man who knows how to cherish. As for Eunjong, she was willing to fight to the death for the Park family that night. It was not because of anyone else's presence. Although she hated President Park Cheon to the core, she had already regarded him as her father and the Park family as her home. Otherwise, she would not have fought for the family when the president and you were both in the hospital. From this point of view, you both have a kind nature. You too will hurt Jinxiu. Yang Cheng did not expect this. Kim Jip was ashamed and remorseful when he heard this, while Jing dared not face Park Cheon's fiery gaze. Park Cheon was overjoyed when he heard Jane's explanation. If Jing did not care about him as her father, she would have left the Park family a long time ago. Even if she left, Kim Jip could have left with her. It would not have hindered him from being with Jing. Therefore, Yunjing's wish to stay in the Park family was the biggest reason. Jing, my daughter, so you still recognize me. Park Cheon was trembling with excitement. He wanted to touch Jing, but the latter dodged his hand. Jing looked at Park Cheon cautiously, but she was much more restrained than before. Park Cheon smiled and did not disturb her. Yang Cheng let out a long sigh and said, I was too naive and forgot that in this world, love between men and women cannot be judged by common sense. I really did not expect you to poison Jinxiu. But since you did it, even if I know you regret it now, I will not let you go so easily. Mr. Yang, are you going to kill Kim Jip? Park Cheon asked in shock. Yang Cheng said matter-of-factly, what else? This is completely unfair to Jinxiu. Don't worry, I'll be quick. He will die peacefully, and I'll leave his corpse intact. No. A gentle voice came from the back of the crowd, completely dispersing the tense atmosphere. Jinxiu, Yang Chun, and the others looked over. They didn't know when Jinxiu had recovered, but she was already watching everything outside the crowd. Everyone's attention was focused on Kim Jip and Eunyoung, so they didn't notice her. Jinxiu walked to the center of the crowd. After Yang Cheng's teasing, not only was the girl unharmed, but her body was also very comfortable. Her complexion was rosy and glowing, and she did not look like she had just passed through the gates of hell. Park Cheon and the others were pleasantly surprised. Brother Yang. Jinxiu gazed at Yang Cheng. Her eyes were moist as she said softly, for the sake of love, they can abandon loyalty, status, wealth, and kinship. They can even sacrifice their lives. I know that's not entirely right, but don't you feel ashamed when you think about them and look at ourselves? Chapter 1443. Yang Cheng did not expect the girl to question him. Looking at Jinxiu's clear and bright eyes, Yang Cheng smiled guiltily. Ashamed? What do I have to be ashamed of? You don't? Jinxiu seemed to have expected this. She walked up to Yang Cheng and stared straight at Yang Cheng. All right then, I'll tell you what I'm ashamed of. Su Jinxiu, you. Yang Cheng wanted to interrupt, afraid of what the girl would say. However, Jinxiu had no intention to stop talking to Yang Cheng. Her eyes were red and her voice trembled with emotion. Brother Yang, I like you. The girl's soft but firm words left Yang Cheng at a loss for words. His face stiffened and he was at a loss of what to do. Jinxiu suddenly smiled gently. The girl in the white wedding dress looked like a fairy in the snow. Brother Yang, do you remember when I was studying for my college entrance exam in Zhonghai? You came into my room one night and found me folding frogs. Jinxiu blushed as if she was still shy at the mention of this embarrassing incident. Yang Chen nodded blankly. He remembered it, but he was still having a headache over Jinxiu's sudden confession. He didn't know what to do. Everyone, including Park Chion, was dumbfounded. Not only was the bride poisoned by the groom, but the fact that the bride was in love with a man named Hua Xia was also revealed. You must have thought that I was strange at the time. Why would I fold frogs at that time? I can tell you now, at that time, I realized that I had unknowingly fallen in love with you. However, you were Sister Ruashi's husband. I couldn't do anything that would let Sister Ruashi down. So, I could only hide my love for you in my heart. I wanted to study hard, but I kept thinking about you. It made my mind a mess. I had to do something else to distract myself. I tried to write in my diary. It was full of hate for you. No, I quarreled with you so that you would scold me and make me hate you, but I still missed you. So, I thought of using origami to vent my feelings. It seemed that every time I folded a frog, I would miss you less. Jinxiu lowered her head in shame and stammered. But I used to play with some boys when I was young. The origami I knew was frogs and ninja darts. But I couldn't put my feelings into darts. It seemed like I hated you. So, I kept folding frogs, one after another. Yang Cheng had regained his senses. He could not help but laugh when he heard Jinxiu's absurd words. However, whenever he thought of the soft back view of the person who was silently folding the frogs under the table lamp, Yang Chen couldn't bring himself to smile. Jinxiu wiped the corners of her eyes and looked up with a smile. Am I stupid? Of course I am. You're laughing at me in your heart, but that's just how I am. I don't care if you laugh at me because I dare to say it. Jinxiu, you don't need to explain, and you don't need to reason with me. Jinxiu complained. I slowly figured it out. You've always known about my feelings for you. You're so observant. You even found out about Eun and Kim Jip. How could you have missed me? I was just burying my head in the sand. That night, we were eating instant noodles in front of the convenience store. You know I wanted to kiss you, right? But you pretended that nothing had happened. When I was in Seoul without you by my side, every time I thought about this, especially in autumn and winter, I saw leaves falling from the trees. It was as if my heart had fallen with them and drifted away with the wind. It made my heart ache. In Yang Chen's mind, it was as if the girl's life in this familiar yet strange place had also appeared. His heart ached. Brother Yang, you've always used the excuse that Kim Jip is a good man to brush me off. Now, do you still think I should marry Kim Jip? This? Of course not. How could Yang Cheng be willing to push Jinxiu into the fire pit? I just didn't expect him to do such a thing. Of course not, because you like me in your heart too. Jinxiu suddenly said confidently, You can kill people for me without hesitation. I can see what's in the depths of your eyes. The corner of Yang Cheng's mouth twitched. Girl, you can't say things like that. I see you as my sister. Sister Hui Lin used to be your sister-in-law. Don't think that you can deal with me with such words. Jinxiu's almond-shaped eyes widened. Yang Cheng was at his wit's end. That's not the same thing. My feelings for you are, for a moment, Yang Cheng didn't know how to continue talking to Jinxiu. The lines of defense in his heart were on the verge of collapsing. Jinxiu seemed to be a little angry. She gritted her teeth and stomped her feet. Brother Yang, are you a man or not? I'm a girl, and yet I dare to say these words in front of so many people. Can't you face your heart calmly? Sister Ruashi wants to divorce you. I haven't done anything wrong to her. I'm free, and you're free too. Why must the relationship between a man and a woman be so complicated? I just want to know your feelings. I don't want you to marry me right now. I don't want you to give all your love to me and stay with me forever. Why are you stuttering like this? Can't you use a short sentence, a single word to explain? Can't you? Jinxiu seemed to have reverted to the fierce and hot delinquent girl she used to be. She asked anxiously, "Do you like me or not? Just say like, and I'll willingly become your woman. Even if you don't marry me, I'll have no regrets. This is my choice. If you say no, I'll leave obediently and be your sister. Or I'll go to a place where you won't see me and worry about me. I'll find a man to spend the rest of my life with. It's that simple. Tell me now." The girl's shriek left everyone speechless. Park Cheon looked at his granddaughter in disbelief. He never thought that Jinxiu would have such a selfless side to her. It's not that simple. Ugh. Before Yang Cheng could finish his sentence, Jinxiu had already pounced on him. She hooked her arms around his neck and pressed her thin cherry lips tightly against Yang Cheng's. Yang Cheng's mind was in a mess. Before he could even react, this fiery scene had already unfolded. The guests gasped in shock while Park Cheon and the others paled. Jinxiu's kiss was forceful and jerky, but she gave it her all. It was as if words could no longer express her repressed emotions. She wanted to give everything she had to him. Yang Cheng's consciousness gradually became muddled. His mind was in a whirl. The girl's alluring scent was like a drug that intoxicated his brain. In his mind, scenes of the past appeared one by one, like an old movie, at the entrance of the police station. The girl stuffed the crescent pendant into the man's hand. "Uncle, this is for you. My mother left this for me. She said it's a talisman. I'm giving it to you now. How can I accept such a precious thing? Uncle, you're the first person who's willing to step forward to protect me. You've made me feel like I'm being treated well. I used to think that this talisman was protecting me. But now, as long as I have Uncle, I don't have to be afraid." The girl's serious eyes were filled with radiance. On the white snow, the girl sat on the swing while the man squatted in front of her. "Ah, what a beautiful girl. I can't bear to let you go when I see you. Little girl, will you come home with me? Although I'm a little too young to be your father, will you be my little sister? Answer me, will you?" "Yes, I will." The girl cried tears of joy. "Jinxiu, if you think that everyone in this world has wronged you, then you must remember that there's one person who will let the entire world down for you." In the dark of the night, the girl fell from the bridge and landed in the man's arms. "I hate you." The man grinned. "Hate me if you want. It's better than letting me down." The girl's eyes were red. She suddenly wrapped her arms around the man's neck and hugged him tightly. "Su Jinxiu, don't ever think that you're a burden to the people who love you. You're the one and only Su Jinxiu in this world. Your life, whether it's for you or for all of us, is the most precious." Yang Cheng felt as if he had woken up from a dream. He could feel a cool liquid on his cheeks and lips. Jinxiu cried because of Yang Cheng's indifference. But at this moment, Yang Cheng's hands were firmly wrapped around the girl's waist. Through the exquisite wedding dress, he could feel her soft skin. Jinxiu's breath stagnated. Her cheeks were flushed red. She blinked her eyes and looked at Yang Cheng. "I told you that you're still young. Why are you crying?" Yang Cheng smiled in relief. "Su Jinxiu, I've lost this time. I admit that I like you." Jinxiu's eyes were misty at first, but they gradually turned into ecstasy. In the end, her thin lips trembled and her delicate body trembled, turning into a touch of shyness. Her eyes were filled with tears, as if they would burst at any time. "But, can you give me some time? I've always wanted to treat you as my little sister. But now that you're like this, I know. This is enough." Jinxiu smiled blissfully like a flower. She was like an innocent little girl who had received candy.